Chapter 298. Mr. Aha. What do you need me to do? Since it was assistance, Han Dong naturally had to ask clearly what he needed to do. Of course, the best-case scenario was for Mr. Aha to be excessively strong. Han Dong only needed to be a bystander and pick up trash. Just do your best. The better you do, the happier I will be. There were several meanings hidden in Mr. Aha's words. After all, in the reward of the hidden event, it did not state the specific value of the increase in intimacy level. It seemed that the more he helped, the more intimacy level would increase. Okay, Han Dong did not have many tricks up his sleeve. As waves of evil energy and ash particles appeared, the two hosts appeared together. The possessed, Chun-Li, the purgatory monk Togu Gonzalez, you also know summoning techniques. Mr. Aha opened his eyes wide and stared at the two summons with completely different styles and attribute. He seemed to be very interested in Han Dong's ability. There was another difference. The Togu that appeared this time seemed to be very different from before. Even Han Dong himself was shocked. After all, Togu did not like to talk much. He would only come out when he was being beaten. In the few months after the end of the training, Han Dong also fulfilled his promise. He secretly let Togu follow Wan-Li to the underground furnace fortress, and let him be beaten by hammers and baptized by lava day and night. Until a month ago, Togu actually took the initiative to return to the prison to rest. The Togu that appeared now. Compared to the training period, there was an obvious difference. In this 1 month of closed-door training, he seemed to have used all the pain he had previously endured for his own growth. This was the fundamental reason why Togu, as a host, was marked as unique. On the surface of his bronze skin, there was an additional trace of metallic luster. There were even some chains that were embedded in his skin. With Togu as the center, the waves of energy emitted from him became even stronger. The extreme pain he had felt during the battle with the great leader of Stuart and the hellish training in the underground furnace fortress were both methods of painful training for Togu. The torn skin was reconstructed in the lava, forming an even stronger skin tissue. The broken bones merged with the iron chains and became even harder. The torn muscles split into more muscle fibers to connect with each other and become stronger. All guilt, repentance, sorrow, and pain are expressed in us all in a visible and concrete form. Sometimes in the form of blessings and grace, sometimes in the form of punishment and corruption. We will continue on this path of cruelty and piety, in search of the miracle. The Hell Cultivator's Handbook during Togu's growth period. Chun-Li, who lived next door, had also secretly gone to see him many times. Even though the two of them cultivated in completely different directions, one could deeply feel a kind of gap between them. Togu, this person, had a kind of unique willpower that drove him to unceasingly grow. If Chun-Li was even the slightest bit sluggish, she would be left far behind. Aha, let's go. To be honest, I stole the sword demon the last time I came. I didn't have the time to take a look inside the general's mansion. I have no idea what's hidden inside. However, our goal is simple. It is to uncover the secret of the general's residence. What do you think? Han Dong explained his inference simply. This general's family might have been pursuing and learning the evil Tao from the very beginning. It could make their bodies strong and their appearances forever. When these employees who hung themselves were given the power of the sword technique and the ghost story, a part of their vitality was also sucked away for the mistress. Or perhaps the vitality was sucked into the locust tree. Through the tree's roots, it was connected to the main building and transferred the vitality to the dead general and his 4 sons, allowing them to revive. And the true secret of the general's mansion lies in how this family learned the evil Tao through which they learned the evil Tao. Maybe the source of the evil Tao is hidden in the depths of the main building. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's an underground secret room with a long history. Maybe it's some indescribable object. Mr. Aha revealed a stiff and slightly dumbfounded smile. I think so too. Let's hurry up and set off. The mistress outside is not simple. If we can't find the source of the problem quickly, your friends might be in danger. I think the dead general and his 4 sons should be in the room where the evil Tao is hidden. If we find them, we can find the source of the problem. Just as they were about to walk out of the room and explore the general's mansion, the sliding door of the room opened. Han Dong remembered that when he first came here, he accidentally saw a naked reptile leaving in a hurry. This reptile should be an inspector in the mansion. A large number of evil beings in warrior armor kept pouring into the room. Clap, clap, clap. At the same time, the paper door behind him that led to the outside corridor kept on slapping. A large number of bloody handprints appeared on the paper door, surrounded from the front and back. But Han Dong was not afraid at all. Togu, do it. Clang, clang, clang. Facing this situation where he was surrounded by a large number of enemies, Togu immediately pulled out a 3-meter-long lava chain from his palm and used a sweeping method to attack the area. Han Dong used the little magic eye to find an opening. He did not intend to be trapped in one place for too long. The battle in the general's mansion was about to start. Inside the mansion, a strange battle was also going on. In a short time, Mia was forced to use the demon sword. Through the entanglement of multiple curses, the demon sword and Mia's hands were tightly tied together to prevent the situation of the weapon being snatched away during the battle. Even if there were a large number of compound eyes on the forehead to assist in observation. Even if there were 4 spider legs on the back to assist in movement. Even if Mia secretly learned a powerful sword technique that could be combined with the curses to completely control the demon sword. But Mia could not gain the upper hand at all. Bang! The blades collided. The female ghost in front of her was still fighting with her, but the sides slowly condensed an identical female master, who quickly slashed with a fierce sword technique. More importantly, the female ghost had the attribute of ethereal, so it was difficult to accurately capture the opponent's position. Once excessive moves or greedy for the sword, Mia would be in danger. Abel and the blacksmith only assisted from the side. At the same time, more and more female ghosts were condensed from the cold air in the pool. When Abel tried to get close to the pool and directly destroy the locust tree, countless female faces formed in the pool, and a large number of arms grew to grab Abel. Moreover, the closer he got to the locust tree, the stronger the desire to commit suicide affected Abel's thinking. In the blink of an eye, Abel seemed to see something terrible through the bark of this crooked tree. He could only temporarily retreat. Chapter 299. Mr. Aha, come with me. The plague corroded a hole in the ceiling above Han Dong's head. Through observation, he found that there was a large space in the compartment of this building. Passing through the interior could avoid a lot of trouble, and it could reach all areas of the general's mansion. He let the G-arm show its original appearance and clasped it. Han Dong climbed up first. Then, Han Dong also reached out and dragged Mr. Aha up. Chen Li's movements were agile, so she naturally didn't need help. A red shadow flashed and she immediately followed up. As usual, Togu brought up the rear and dealt with the problem. Han Dong's request was to completely destroy the room in front of them. Following his master's request, a dark golden light appeared on Togu's back at this moment. He used a part of his origin energy. He extended the iron chains on his arms and drew circles with them. The area circled by the iron chains almost occupied the entire room. The wooden boards melted. Immediately, a huge lava pool was formed. After many guards wearing armor fell into it, they didn't even have the chance to struggle. They were melted together with their armor. The guards squeezed in this room were all melted. The compartment on the ceiling was about 1 meter high. It was still spacious to move forward by crawling inside. However, Togu, who finally climbed up from the opening, had his entire back protruding. His whole body was emitting steam, and his whole body was slightly weak. Using a large amount of lava energy at once made Togu somewhat uncomfortable. Togu, are you okay? Yes. Togu nodded. As long as Han Dong asked him to do something, even if he only had the last bit of strength left, Togu would complete it. At this moment, Mr. Aha stared at Togu with interest and commented in a low voice, "Suffering devil system. He has gone through the pain of perfect iron chains and lava. He is a very devout cultivator. I seem to have something here that can help you." Mr. Aha fumbled around in his pocket. After a while, he took out a toy doll. After a while, he took out a peachwood sword covered with talismans. After a while, he grabbed a dead fish with its eyes rolled back. It was as if he was carrying a store with him. Found it. Hell rock should be very useful to you. When a fiery red rock with a ring of black smoke surrounding it was taken out, Togu immediately recognized the origin of the rock. He grabbed it and swallowed it. For a moment, a kind of origin lava energy flowed through his entire body, allowing Togu to completely recover. "Thank you. You're welcome, you're welcome. Without your help, it would have been very difficult for me to occupy this land." Han Dong memorized this scene in his heart. Now was not the time to chat, so he did not ask about Mr. Aha's ability. With the help of the magic eye, he observed the situation of the rooms on the first and second floors as he crawled. "Mr. Han Dong, do you want me to investigate alone? I can hide in the dark without being discovered," Chun-Li suddenly suggested. Han Dong disagreed. "This isn't an ordinary homestay. It's a general's mansion with hundreds of years of history. If you could be like Senior Sister Jeanne and completely merge your body with the shadows, I might let you investigate. But right now, you can only use the shadows to hide your body. It's very easy for you to be exposed." Chun-Li could not refute Han Dong's statement. Ding! There was a feeling of a light bulb lighting up on Mr. Aha's head. "Aha! I have a way. I just happen to have a pill here that can temporarily increase one's concealment. It shouldn't be past its expiration date." Mr. Aha once again took out a pure black pill from his pocket. After Chun-Li took it, she actually had a feeling of being able to merge with the shadows. The shadows in the room were all approaching Chun-Li. "It's only temporary. After half an hour, the effects of the pill will fade. After about an hour, it will be gone. Little girl, hurry up." "Mr. Han Dong, then I'll go look for it." "All right." Following Chun-Li's departure, Han Dong curiously stared at Mr. Aha, who looked like an undead. He really couldn't help but ask shopkeeper, "Can you carry the shop with you?" "Yes, or else I'll have to go back to get something when I remember that I didn't bring it. How troublesome. I don't have much ability, but I can tie the shop and myself together." Next, after crawling a full circle between the rooms, Han Dong finished checking all the rooms on the first and second floor. He didn't find anything deliberate. It needs to be explained that the general's mansion has a total of 3 floors. In other words, only the third floor was left to be searched. Half an hour passed. The moment the effects of the pill weakened, Chun-Li returned. Chun-Li's body was stained with some stinky liquid. There were 2 black teeth marks on her shoulder and waist. Her condition wasn't very good. "Mr. Han Dong, the third floor is completely sealed. But I accidentally found a key room. It's just that when I was stealing the key, I was accidentally bitten by a type of a flying head." "Poison? You can't even dispel the evil aura? Quickly go back and rest. Leave the rest to me and Togu." Suddenly, Mr. Aha spoke again. "It's not good to let this lady rest at this juncture. It's just poison, how simple is that?" Mr. Aha took out a plastic straw from his body. He aimed it at the wound on Chun-Li's body and gently sucked. The black poison inside was immediately sucked out. She didn't even feel any pain. Chun-Li immediately returned to normal. "Thank you." Even Chun-Li was curious about this shopkeeper, who looked like an undead. "Since we have the key, let's hurry up. Time is money, my friend." They crawled out from the compartment and immediately went up the stairs. The third floor of the general's mansion was sealed by an iron door with a huge Prajna face printed on it. The key in Chun Li's hand was shaped like an arm. It needed to be inserted into the mouth of the iron door and slowly turned. Accompanied by the sound of heavy gears, the door opened. Before the guards arrived, she immediately closed the heavy iron door again. I found the right place. The general and his 4 sons are really here. There weren't any compartments on the 3rd floor. The spacious 3rd floor was filled with a thick evil aura. Chun Li seemed to be very interested in this kind of aura. Hundreds of prajna masks with subtle differences in color and charm were hung on the wall. There was a large-scale sacrificial altar in the opposite direction. There was a piece of historical skin fixed on the wall with bone nails. The surface of the skin was densely printed with small words. The whole body emitted a strong evil aura, even forming a ghost face virtual image. Obviously, this was the secret of the general's mansion, the source of evil magic. In addition, there were 5 ebony coffins wrapped around by tree root. Because they smelled the scent of living people, the coffins' lids sprang open at the same time. 5 heads that had been chopped off by the enemy slowly floated out of the coffins. Chapter 300. Master Han Dong. Mr. Han Dong, can I have the skin that is nailed to the wall? The moment Chun Li stepped into the room, her eyes were attracted by the skin that was emitting waves of evil energy and was engraved with densely packed small words. Mr. Aha quickly rejected her request. That won't do, little girl. This skin is a high-end product. I must bring it back to the shop. However, currently hanging in the room, I can choose the best prajna mask that is refined by the evil method recorded on the skin and give it to you. Anyway, you only want the evil energy. This skin has other things that you don't need other than the evil energy. It would be a waste to give it to you directly to absorb and refine. Miss Chun Li, just listen to Mr. Aha. Han Dong quickly followed up. In the current world, it was necessary to treat this shop manager well. Okay, Mr. Han Dong. These heads don't seem to take the initiative to attack. Instead, they are guarding near the skin. Do you want me to try? Let's observe first. 5 ebony coffins tightly surrounded the bier. 5 floating flying heads were connected to the necks through the roots that grew out of the coffins. Their mouths were constantly exhaling a strong evil energy. Han Dong had never dealt with such evil creatures before. He couldn't compare it with the life outside the city wall. These 5 flying heads with hundreds of years of history were not as simple as just heads. They may have very dangerous characteristics. If he was too eager to get the skin, it may be life-threatening. What the hell is this? Under the vision of the little magic eye, it was not as simple as just a few heads. When the coffins were opened, the evil energy that had been contained for hundreds of years gushed out and slowly built an invisible body for them. They were all brave and strong fighters when they were alive. Mr. Aha, is there any tool that can directly steal the skin? No. The aura-concealing pill just now has been given to this young lady. You need to figure out a way here. Mr. Aha seemed to have no intention of making a move. He moved his old and slightly bent body and leaned against the wall. He even put on a leisurely look as if he was watching a show. Master, let me try. Togu, who had just taken the Hell Rock, was in excellent condition. He immediately pulled on the 2 iron chains. He was prepared to use the iron chain to smash these heads, vines, and coffins together. However, just as Togu was swinging the iron chain with all his strength and swinging it towards these heads, buzz, when it was 10 centimeters away, the iron chain suddenly stopped in midair, as if it was stopped by something invisible. Togu could only vaguely see the outline of an arm that was both real and illusory. Han Dong was the only one who could clearly see that the 5 heads had actually formed a giant ghostly hand using Yin energy and forcibly stopped the chain in its tracks. It was even possible to see that where the ghostly hand came into contact with the chain, it actually suppressed the lava on the surface of the chain, causing a kind of cold air to spread out. Immediately afterwards, another ghostly hand took shape. It gathered a massive amount of energy and grabbed towards Tugu. Retreat. Although Tugu couldn't see clearly, he listened to his master's orders and immediately retreated. He couldn't avoid it completely. However, Tugu's body was completely unharmed. Clang. The iron chain fell to the ground. Tugu suddenly fell to one knee and spat out a mouthful of black hot blood. In less than 5 seconds, a black claw mark slowly appeared under his skin. This was different from the physical attack of the Great Lord that he had faced head-on. This ghostly hand could penetrate Tugu's copper skin and iron bones and directly destroy his internal body. It could even cancel out the lava energy in Tugu's body and injure his origin. It was quite dangerous. Just then, Mr. Aha stepped forward with a straw and immediately sucked out the energy in Tugu's body. At the same time, he urged, "Aha, you have to hurry up. If you delay any longer, these 5 heads will slowly construct a true body. That will be troublesome." Energy was still constantly being transported in through the large locust tree outside the house. In addition to the 2 ghostly hands that had already formed, Tugu's torso was also slowly taking shape. Once a complete body was formed, it would be troublesome. "Chunli, Tugu, hurry over," Han Dong instructed the 2 of them with a plan and asked them to cooperate perfectly. There was only one chance. These 5 heads have a protective range of about 3 meters. Once you get close, Han Dong estimated some important information from Tugu's battle just now. When they were about 3 meters away, the 5 terrifying heads immediately turned and looked at Han Dong. If he took one more step forward, the invisible ghostly hands would tear Han Dong to shreds. In a fate event with a maximum of 5 stars, it is considered an A+ ghost story. It is normal to have this kind of difficulty. Even Tugu's defense is ineffective. If I am touched, I am afraid I will lose all my vitality in a short time. I can only try a new move. Although I am still far from mastering it completely, the effect is still there. Moreover, the current situation is the most suitable. As long as these 5 heads maintain a certain distance, they will only stare at me and will not take the initiative to attack. It is just right for me to practice. Han Dong learned from the magicians in the library. The book was held in Han Dong's hand and he flipped to Volume 2 I seal. Step by step. First, try to chant the high-level text. The nature of the faceless head was stimulated. Suddenly, with Han Dong as the center, a circle of pollution spread out. This made Mr. Aha, who was leaning on the side to watch the show, very interested. He immediately took out a pair of reading glasses from his pocket and carefully observed Han Dong's changes. Open mouth, Han Dong slowly spat out the normal red tongue in his mouth. A thin line appeared from the tip of the tongue and slowly separated the whole tongue. It turned into 2 thin tongues that could be controlled independently. They were more flexible and wriggling more like tentacles. Through the independent movement of the 2 tongues, Han Dong could make a unique sound to chant the high-level text. Mr. Aha decisively took out a pair of broken earphones from his body and plugged his ears to prevent them from being polluted by such a figure. Following Han Dong's chant, the pupil of the little magic eye shrank to half its original size. With the round pupil as the center, a kind of black line was precisely outlined, similar to the shape of a flower petal, surrounding the eyeball. Due to the continuous release of pollution during this process, it stimulated the 5 heads that were slowly condensing the body. Ah! The 5 heads made a terrible sound, and 2 terrifying ghostly hands immediately grabbed Han Dong. At the critical moment, the eye seal was completed. A stream of blood flowed down the edge of the eye socket. The ghostly hands that were about to touch Han Dong suddenly stopped. They began to disintegrate from the tip of the finger, without any resistance. Immediately after, the 5 heads that were looking at Han Dong fell into confusion. Their eyes became lack. "Do it!" Toga directly waved the chain and attacked the coffin from a distance. Chun-Li turned into a red flash and quickly passed through the confused heads. she grabbed the skin that was overflowing with evil energy in her hand. Chapter 301. Clang. The iron chain dripping with lava was thrown out in an arc. The 5 heads in the stagnant state of consciousness were smashed one after another. However, the Inchi showed no signs of dissipating. The fragments of the smashed heads were still connected through the branches of the tree roots, and there were even signs of healing. It's still not dead? What kind of monster is this? At this moment, the skin was handed over to Mr. Aha. At the same time, Mr. Aha waved his hand. All the Prajna masks hanging in the room flew into Mr. Aha's hand and gathered into a mask. The thing is in hand, we can go now. Of course, if you want to completely eradicate the monster in the general's mansion, that's fine too. After the matter is settled, come to the shop to find me. Very realistic. Mr. Aha, who got the thing, had no intention of staying to help. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. Han Dong himself was also quite speechless about this situation. Mr. Han Dong, are we leaving too? Chun-Li asked. No, completely eradicate the general's mansion. I want to collect the essence of this monster's cells. You and Tugu continuously attack. Don't let these 5 heads completely heal. I'll find a way to eradicate it. Okay. The iron chain and kitchen knife attacked continuously. No matter how they were smashed, or even melted with high temperature, these heads could still regenerate and heal. The reason was naturally the tree roots that connected them, constantly providing vitality to the heads. The secret might be hidden inside the coffin. Han Dong maintained the pupil seal state and leaned toward the ebony coffin. Looking down, the situation inside made Han Dong's expression not very good. Although he had anticipated that this kind of thing that was related to evil magic would not be good in nature. But when he saw the actual inside, Han Dong still felt very uncomfortable. His speculation was correct. The roots of the crooked tree extended into the general's mansion. It was connected to the heads of the dead general and his 4 sons, constantly providing them with energy. This was the reason why the heads could infinitely regenerate. As long as this crooked tree was still there, these 5 heads would not die. What made Han Dong feel uncomfortable was the structure of the roots. It was not a plant, but a large number of dried human bodies pieced together. Every node had a head to connect the front and back. Currently, there were a large number of head nodes in the coffin, all of them spitting out roots from their mouths to connect the general and his 4 sons. Evil. Although the little devil eye that I've cultivated isn't anything good, I definitely won't touch such evil deeds. Such a filthy, evil, and unclean evil creature can never be allowed to exist in this world. Han Dong was very clear about this. When he arrived at the theme park, the first ghost story he encountered was the Red Umbrella. It was very afraid of Han Dong's corpse feather clothes. In essence, it was afraid of contamination. Whether it was dead or alive, nothing could escape the influence of pollution. Full release of corruption. Han Dong stared at the evil tree root in the coffin. The patterns in the little demon eye began to move slightly. Drip. In the center of his eyes, a gloomy drop of liquid dripped out and slid down the walls of the coffin. Just this drop of liquid had drained about 12% of the seed's energy. His consciousness shook for a moment, and Han Dong almost fell to the ground. He leaned on the coffin with both hands to stabilize his body. Drip. The moment the essence of the contaminated liquid came into contact with the evil tree root, an indescribable pollution spread in the area of the evil tree root. Grumble. Gray tentacles with spots drilled through the skin of the evil tree root and wriggled back and forth on its surface. Tens of millions of screams came from the evil tree root. The evil tree root was collapsing and destroying at a speed visible to the naked eye. The effect was very obvious. The healing speed of the 5 heads slowed down significantly and even revealed a ferocious and dying face. Boom. The foundation was shaken. The entire general's mansion was shaking violently and was about to collapse. Han Dong's eyes not only hurt due to excessive energy consumption, but also his head felt like it was about to explode due to using the evil arts he had just learned for a long time. But he still gritted his teeth and supported his body with his will. He tried his best to open his eyes and took out a syringe with a pure gold pattern. He pierced into the back of the general's head and extracted a cell essence. Retreat. The general's mansion collapsed. First, a red shadow flashed out, and Chun-Li landed steadily in the open area of the courtyard. Then, an iron chain was pulled out. It plunged head first into the ground. Togu hugged the extremely weak Han Dong and landed steadily on the ground using a method similar to a zipline. The screams continued. The crooked tree that grew between the pond and the courtyard began to disintegrate from the inside. The effect of the pollution was stronger than expected. The tentacles had already forcibly broken through the bark, exposing the inner layer of the trunk made up of countless human bodies. A large amount of dirty water poured out from the inside. This crooked tree that had existed for hundreds of years would die completely in less than a minute. No, when the female master, Chi, saw this scene, her mind was in chaos, and her attention was completely focused on the locust tree. Mia, whose body was full of knife wounds, forced herself to take a self-made medicine. It temporarily eliminated all the pain in her body, and she secreted a large amount of adrenaline. Seizing this great opportunity, she stabbed the demon blade in her hand into the female master's head and through her body. Smack! The female master knelt on the ground, but she still had no intention of dying. Just as Mia was about to finish the job, Han Dong said telepathically, "Mia, that's it. Things will be over soon." Just then, a chain shot out and swept the 5 human heads out of the collapsed general's mansion and tossed them in front of the female master. Due to the death of the giant locust tree, the resurrection of the general and his 4 sons was no longer possible. Their eyes were closed, and their skin and flesh had completely melted away, leaving only 5 skeletal skulls in front of the female master. She stared at the skeletal skulls. Smack! The Prajna mask fell to the ground. It revealed the exquisite features of the female master, and a smile of joy appeared on her face. Within a short period of time, the female master's body gradually disintegrated, transforming into wisps of energy that were slowly absorbed into the demonic blade. The character for the demon blade was carved into the blade. This was the true form of this demonic blade that had completely merged with the soul of its mistress. Let's go. Chun-Li and Togu returned to the prison to rest and recuperate. Abel supported Han Dong. Wen-Li used the hammerhead in her hand to smash open a path to the surface. Just then, Han Dong and the others hurriedly circled around the back of the mountain and left. Sensing a dangerous aura, they immediately turned to look in the direction of the hot spring hotel. Several young and beautiful waitresses dressed in kimono stood in the forest, waving goodbye to Han Dong and the others. The lady boss dressed in a dark blue kimono stood closest to them, revealing a somewhat terrifying smile on her face. It was almost as though she were thanking them for resolving the matter of the general's mansion and returning them their freedom. Yet, it was also almost as though she were thanking Han Dong for helping her complete a major task, so that she could gain full control of this place. Judging from the lady boss's sinister gaze, the latter was more likely to be the case. Chapter 302. Ghost Story. The most important point was the word strange. It was completely different from the destiny event Han Dong had experienced. It was also different from the monsters outside the city or the higher-level hybrid demons. The strange here represented the form, ability, and even the most basic knowledge. This made some normal combat experience useless. One needed to understand the nature of the ghost story through various details in the battle and find the correct way to deal with it. If one was not careful, one's life would be in danger. It was not something that could be solved with just fists. Ghost Story, Starved Ghost, completed, along with a hidden event. Han Dong's stamina and the seed's energy were overexhausted, so he needed to rest for a while. Mia's injuries were the most serious. There were many cuts on her body, including a few knife wounds on her waist. One could even see the structure of her internal organs. It was just a simple hemostasis using spider silk. For now, Mia was receiving medical treatment in Mr. Aha's shop. In terms of rewards, this trip was very profitable. Through the 10 points that they paid in advance, they obtained the rights to the demon blade. Even though Mia was sent back to the shop, she still hugged the demon blade tightly in her arms and did not allow anyone to touch it. Also, Han Dong tried his best to help Mr. Aha during the hidden event, whether it was scouting, killing enemies, or obtaining the rights to Skin and the Hot Spring Hotel. Han Dong contributed greatly. The intimacy level between the two went from neutral to friendly. Han Dong's team could enjoy a 10% discount in any shop in the theme park. Shop utility room. Mr. Aha saw that Han Dong had helped him a lot, so he temporarily lent the utility room and some medical equipment to Han Dong. Mia was lying on a trolley in the utility room. A lot of blood was flowing out from her body. She was very weak. Even though her body was pale and trembling, she still hugged the demon blade, afraid that it would be taken away by others. Mr. Aha only provided the venue and some materials. He naturally would not help with the treatment. In the team, Mia was a support member. Abel and Wunli knew nothing about medical treatment. Other than drinking medicine, they knew nothing else. The matter of Mia's treatment was naturally pushed to Han Dong. At least, Han Dong had no problem with the details of the operation. When he was alive, he had dissected at least 5,000 white mice and performed some simple animal suturing operations. During the treatment period, the storeroom was locked, leaving only 2 people inside. Han Dong's gaze never deviated or scattered. He carefully scanned all the wounds on Mia's body. 53 wounds, and at least 10 of them are very deep. When the cold air entered his body, it was all thanks to the small spiders and the curse in his body. To be able to maintain most of the normal functions of the body, you are indeed worthy of being called an insect adherent. He found a small table lamp that could provide sufficient light. Then, with the help of a thin thread in the utility room that could aid in healing, he began to suture the wound. The surgery lasted for 8 hours. Han Dong stitched every stitch and line very carefully. With the help of Mia's insect self-healing ability, the surgery was very successful. Only the cold air in the body was difficult to get rid of. At this time, he could not let Togu come and inject lava energy. Not only would it not neutralize it, it would cause Mia to die immediately. The suture is complete. Next, we can only rely on Mia to slowly get rid of the cold air in her body. It may take more than a day. Han Dong also looked exhausted. He carried the light Mia on his back and left the storeroom. Thank you, Mr. Aha. We will be leaving first, Aha. Keep this thing well. Mr. Aha fulfilled his promise and handed a Prajna mask to Han Dong. He handed it to Miss Chin Li to refine the evil energy in it and turn it into her own. Thank you. I hope we can continue to work together in the future, young man. Mr. Aha waved goodbye to Han Dong. They could not stay in the shop area for long. If other prisoner teams came, things would be really troublesome. Is Sister Mia okay? Wunli had been waiting at the door all this time. She's fine. She just needs some time to recover. During Mia's surgery, Abel crouched on the rooftop of the old building the whole time, using his owl mode to monitor the situation. He immediately went downstairs to meet up with the team. However, Abel looked somewhat guilty. It's my fault. I tried to destroy the locust tree and missed a lot of opportunities. I also did not do my best to help Mia classmate. It was Abel's first time dealing with such a strange and difficult opponent. He was somewhat powerless in battle. While staying on the rooftop to monitor the situation, Abel had been reflecting on these problems. When dealing with freaks, they had to abandon their actual combat skills. It's fine. Mia's recovery ability is much stronger than the average person. Let's find a hotel to rest first. Wonli immediately leaned over. Vice Captain, you should rest. Let me carry Sister Mia. Okay. Unexpectedly, Mia held the demon knife in one hand and hugged Han Dong tightly with the other. It seemed that these two things were her treasures. Even if she was unconscious, she would not let go. If he forcibly let go of Mia, it might cause the wound to tear. In this case, Han Dong could only continue to carry her. However, Mia's body was really light. Perhaps it was related to her identity as an insect possessor. She was only about 30 kilograms, so it was not a problem at all. For safety reasons, naturally, the hotel only booked one room. Abel seemed to be very uncomfortable because of the ghost story and did not want to sleep. He planned to patrol the entire hotel to check the possibility of being followed by the prisoner team. Wonli filled the bathtub with water, locked the door, and enjoyed the happy time alone. Therefore, only Mia and Han Dong were left in the room, when Han Dong tried to gently put Mia on the bed. Who knew that Mia still refused to let go and dragged Han Dong onto the bed together. Mia, who was in a daze, relied on her instinct to treat Han Dong as her own and hugged him tightly from the front. Just as Han Dong tried to break free, Mia whispered in his ear, I'm cold. You're awake? Han Dong checked and found that Mia was completely talking in her sleep. Sigh. I really don't know what to do with you. During the operation, Mia faintly caught a glimpse of Han Dong's figure and stitched up her wound intimately. As a result, the subsequent dream completely integrated Han Dong into it. Unknowingly, the night passed. Mia, who woke up in a daze, clearly remembered everything that happened in the dream. Currently, on the big bed she was hugging a certain someone, so naturally, she became one with the dream. You're so naughty. Usually, you don't want to, but now you're taking advantage of the situation. Mia, who woke up, immediately turned over and got up. Unfortunately, the bedroom door opened. Han Dong, who was holding the hotel breakfast, was standing at the door, staring at the energetic Mia, who was sitting on the dazed Wonli. Sorry, you can continue. Chapter 303. Han Dong didn't have any special thoughts about what he saw in the bedroom. After putting down the breakfast, he turned and left. There was neither excitement nor dissatisfaction. He simply thought that it was a good thing for his teammates to relax in such a high-pressure destiny event. Abel is still sleeping on the roof. I need to deal with some personal matters. In the blink of an eye, Han Dong had appeared in the portable prison corridor. At present, Chun-Li was wearing the Prajna mask, refined by Mr. A. She refined and absorbed evil energy and stored it in the evil bead to improve her cultivation. As for Togu, he was relatively idle. He read the Bible while whipping his body with iron chains. Super clean biological laboratory. Han Dong took off the core syringe as soon as he entered the room. He stored the brain cell essence of General Fei Shou in a test tube. Because the load limit at this stage had reached the maximum value, these cell essences could only be temporarily stored and used in the future. Han Dong walked to the incubator at the side and took out a piece of culture medium that he put in yesterday. However, the surface of the culture medium was full of cell communities. It was the cell essence that Han Dong took from prisoner Ivanov a day ago. He crossed it on a plate and inoculated it on the surface of the culture medium. In just one day, it was full of culture medium. No matter how the cells are cultured, the total amount of essence is unchanged. The load value added by a sample of essence is unchanged. There is no electron microscope and supporting imaging system here. Otherwise, I can observe the functions of various cell organelles and the overall activity intensity in depth. However, judging from the speed of cell proliferation alone, it is far higher than human cells. The activity is even more terrifying. Han Dong recalled his encounter with death row inmate Ivanov in the corridor. Han Dong suffered a great loss at the beginning of the battle due to his specialized fighting skills. He even almost lost his life. And Ivanov's terrifying body that couldn't be eroded by the plague and could easily crush reinforced concrete. If such characteristics could be successfully transferred to ghouls, crowmen, or some other life forms outside the city through cell culture, genetic engineering, and other means, and then be cultivated on a large scale, he would be able to obtain a quite terrifying army. This type of cell is very interesting. I'll hand it over to Professor Onkologny for research. If he can't perform gene splicing, at least try the most basic cell fusion. The bodies of life outside the city were already very peculiar, and after being transformed by pollution, their repulsion towards foreign objects should be reduced to a minimum. If I can properly introduce the cells into the ghouls and crowmen, allowing them to obtain such physique and combat skills, at the very least, some random people won't dare to barge into my manor. Han Dong sat in the corner of the laboratory and turned his attention back to the incident. The opening for a 5-star ghost story is not bad. Based on what the shop owner said, at the beginning of the game, they had obtained a demon blade that could damage high-level ghost stories. Moreover, Mia herself seemed to have grown after this incident, and the overall combat strength of the team had also increased because of it. Fortunately, this allowed me to get closer to Mr. Aha. Mr. Aha's shop itself is a ghost story, but for the specific location I had to consider further. Based on the fact that Mr. Aha was able to open shops in various areas of the theme park, it probably originated from some kind of S-grade ghost story, furthermore, different from the clown. I've received a clear notification that my intimacy level with Mr. Aha has reached friendly. Even though the clown is cooperating with me, his intimacy level has been maintained at neutral. Based on this alone, Mr. Aha can still be trusted. Hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to deepen my cooperation with the shop owner and raise our intimacy level to a higher level. When the time comes, Mr. Aha might be able to help us leave the theme park. When he thought about this, Han Dong could not help but look at the clown's arm that was tied to the scanner. All of a sudden, a red mouth grew out from the top of the clown's arm, and it roared angrily. "You have other ghosts outside." Han Dong shook his head and quickly dispelled this strange illusion. "That's about it. Now I need to quickly earn ghost story points and buy a pass to enter the theme park." When Han Dong returned to the hotel, he saw Wenli running up and down the corridor with an anxious expression. Vice Captain, Sister Mia's condition is not right." "What's not right? Did you guys go too far?" "No. Vice Captain, you've misunderstood. I'm not related to Sister Mia at all." When Sister Mia carried the sword demon into the bathroom to wash up, there was a sudden scream. Then, there was a heavy sense of danger coming from the bathroom. When I opened the door, Sister Mia was leaning against the sink. She looked at me as if she wanted to chop me to death. "Vice Captain, go and take a look. Is Sister Mia possessed by the mistress from yesterday?" "Okay." When he heard this, Han Dong felt uneasy. After all, the sword demon had indeed merged with the soul of the mistress. If the mistress really took over Sister Mia's body and consciousness when she was weak, the situation would be troublesome. Clang! When Han Dong kicked the bathroom door open, he found that the entire bathroom was filled with cursed scriptures. Mia was in the complete Spider-Woman form. Her body was suspended in the air through the silk thread that shot out from her tail. The demon's sword was placed in front of her chest. It seemed that she was trying to control the demon's sword through the curse assimilation. Wenli, guard the door. No one is allowed to disturb. Mia is accepting this demon's sword. This process is very important. Okay. Wenli looked aggressive and guarded the door with a hammer in her hand. Even the staff passing by would be glared at by her. In the bathroom, just like how Mia once transformed the curse object, Butler Bell. This kind of weapon with self-consciousness needed a process of transformation and control to truly become Mia's possession. Han Dong, who wore the crow feather coat, hid in the dark. In terms of quality, this demon sword was definitely stronger than the butler bell. Mia just recovered and transformed. There might be a certain danger. If necessary, Han Dong would stop it. However, the situation was several times better than Han Dong expected. The whole process was very smooth. It seems to be very smooth. It seems that Mistress Qi has been liberated on the ideological level yesterday. It won't be too difficult for Mia. The waves of cold air on the surface of the demon's sword and the curse on Mia's body intertwined and merged. Slowly, the transformation and control of the demon's sword were completed. The curses in the bathroom were also retracted into Mia's body. It was very strange. Just when all of this was completed, a pure white curved small horn slowly grew on Mia's forehead. It seemed to give Mia a ghost characteristic. Special Destiny Equipment, Demon Sword, Starved Ghost, obtained. Chapter 304. Creak, 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 the spider legs retracted back into her body. When they returned to normal, Mia opened her eyes and landed steadily on the ground with a forward somersault. As for Demon Blade, Starved Demon Blade, it was kept in its scabbard and hung diagonally on Mia's back through a hidden spider web. It could be used at any time, just like a swordsman. Mia also underwent a huge change as she wielded the demon blade. Her strength had increased substantially. The increase in fate points was only an increase in a person's upper limit. True strength was increased through learning, meditation, experience, actual combat, and so on. Mia's strength had increased by a level this time. When she opened her eyes and saw Han Dong silently guarding her in the corner of the bathroom, the image of Han Dong carefully stitching up her wound appeared in her mind. The current Mia felt different from her previous disguise. She directly stepped forward and hugged Han Dong tightly without saying anything. "Thank you. This is your request. I will naturally do my best to help you obtain the perfect demon blade. This way we are even. I will definitely find a way to sleep with you in the future. Also, what happened between me and Wenli this morning wasn't what you saw, What happened to you has nothing to do with me. I am curious about this demon blade and your changes." Han Dong stretched out his finger and lightly tapped the small white horn that grew out of Mia's forehead. "Annoying, it's so itchy." "Oh, is it really a part of your body?" "Isn't it? It seems to be a special ability of this demon blade. The unique changes that occur when I wield it. This weapon can even allow me to use it until I become an official knight, Mua." Thinking of this, Mia happily kissed Han Dong's cheek. "Don't do these fancy things. Where is the demon blade? Let me see its detailed attribute." Han Dong was not interested in Mia at all. The main reason why he was guarding here was because of this demon blade. Fate Equipment. Demon Blade, Starved Demon Blade, Type, Tachi Quality, Unique, Purple, Basic Attribute, greatly increases attack power, only on the sharp part of the blade, Equipment Effect. Increases the user's HP regeneration speed by a small amount. When near water or plants, the user's HP regeneration speed is increased by 3 times. Demon Blade can deal the same amount of damage to any form of life form. It is not affected by attributes or form changes. When attacking, ignore 25% of maximum defense. Exclusive special effect Frowny Face Ghost Warrior imbues the will of a ghost into the body of the wielder. Origin. Rumor has it that this sword was forged by a certain blacksmith during the Muromachi period. At that time, the craftsman's village was under the threat of a kind of mountain ghost, who would kidnap some cattle and sheep every week. If they did not have enough cattle and sheep, they would attack the children in the village. The blacksmith also had a daughter who was less than 2 years old. Her name was Chi. One night, the blacksmith was awakened by his daughter's cries. When he rushed to the room with a knife, he found a mountain ghost with a white horn on its head. Its mouth was wide open and full of saliva, and it had already wrapped the blacksmith's daughter in its mouth. At this critical moment, the blacksmith completely forgot his fear, only his anger. With a single slash, he chopped off the entire head of the mountain ghost. His daughter, who had yet to be swallowed into his stomach, was saved just like that. After the event, his daughter, who slowly grew up, became different from her peers. She had a unique feeling for the katana that killed the mountain ghost, and she named it a starved ghost. She carried it with her day and night and practiced swordsmanship alone. One day, a certain general heard that there was a blacksmith in the village who had once made a famous sword that could kill a mountain ghost. He came in person and wanted to ask the blacksmith to forge a personal weapon for him. However, the young general was also attracted by the woman who was practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard of the blacksmith's house. The general had never seen such a unique temperament. The next day, he married her back to the general's house. Because the living conditions had completely changed. She began to get tired of chopping wooden stakes and some wild animals that only knew how to scream. She wanted to try the feeling of chopping people. The general found a large number of prisoners of war for his wife to play. But the prisoners of war who were killed by the starved ghost were buried under the big locust tree in the courtyard. While human nature was distorted, the famous sword was slowly evolving into a demon blade. What a long origin story! It was the first time Han Dong had seen such a long introduction. At the same time, he also learned from the origin story why the mistress Qi loved swordsmanship, most importantly, the quality of this demon blade. It was the highest quality among the weapons of destiny Han Dong had seen so far. Even the coral seal worn by Han Dong was inferior to this demon blade. Han Dong asked with a curious face, "Purple unique?" The weapon itself also has an exclusive special effect that changes the wielder. Mia, are there any obvious changes? Mia scratched the newly grown white curved horn. The specific changes. I don't feel much physically, but I feel that I'm better at using swords. Increasing the proficiency of sword-type weapons? By the way, where did you learn your swordsmanship from before? The sacred city mainly uses sword-type weapons. This kind of Japanese swordsmanship seems to be very rare. Well, I learned it by myself, okay? Okay. Han Dong was just asking casually. Since Mia was unwilling to say, then forget it. Seeing that Han Dong was not asking anymore, Mia quickly pushed his arm. You really don't want to ask. My swordsmanship is actually a family heirloom. I was so pitiful when I was young. I was forced to learn this swordsmanship when I was only a few years old. But, until I met the little spider, I was free from the burden of my family. Since I've learned the swordsmanship, I'll keep it in mind. Since you've mastered the demon blade, and your injuries are almost healed, let's continue with the destiny event. After leaving the hotel, the four of them once again went to the shop. He used his remaining 8 fate points to exchange for a ghost story called Twisted Twist. Clues. In the underground parking lot on the 3rd floor of the shopping mall, people would occasionally see a twisted shadow in the corner. Once they made eye contact with such a shadow, the shadow would immediately use an extremely twisted method to attack. The victim would not die on the spot. Generally, in the next 12 hours, the joints of the victim's body would be twisted until they no longer looked human and died from the pain. Following the clues, Han Dong and the others successfully found the underground parking lot, which had been sealed off long ago and only had a few dusty old cars parked there. The little magic eye immediately captured the ghost story here. Wrapped in the shadow was an old man with a 120 degrees back, and even each of his knuckles could make a terrifying twisting movement. Because Han Dong looked directly at him, the old man twisted and ran at a speed comparable to a car. Chapter 305. So fast, plague veins protruded from the surface of Han Dong's arm. A large amount of plague formed on the ground and even formed a wall made of fungi, completely blocking the old man's path of movement. However, Ghost Story could not be dealt with using conventional methods. The old man completely ignored the plague's obstruction and broke through the plague barrier. So troublesome! Just as Han Dong was about to use his pollution ability. Whoosh! A ghostly shadow slashed down. The demon's sword came out of its scabbard. But an arm with many joints twisted 360 degrees was chopped off and fell to the ground. Then a large amount of black smoke rose and immediately turned into a puddle of stinky black water. This old man's speed is too fast. However, Mia was not satisfied with the result of only chopping off one arm. Because the old man's target was Han Dong, Mia only needed to aim and kill the target. She calculated the time and slashed out. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, the old man used his extremely twisted body to reduce his speed and avoided the slash. The old man who retreated used a bent posture to climb on the roof of the car. The black smoke that enveloped his body was trying to reassemble his arm, but it found that the wound was entangled with cold air and could not be reassembled. For a moment, the old man's eyes turned crazily as he stared at the demon's sword in Mia's hand with great fear. Just as he slowly retreated and tried to hide his body in the darkness of the parking lot to attack this group of humans in another way, a white shadow flashed out. Its speed was actually faster than the old man's. After the incident at the general's mansion and last night's meditation, Abel figured out many things. When dealing with this kind of ghost story that could not be explained by conventional concepts, he was not in a hurry to attack. After observing some of the opponent's characteristics through the eyes of the owl, using Ki as the main attack, he launched an attack. It was completely different from the usual battle. Abel's body surface released a large amount of white smoke, enveloping his body like a pure white wolf. The sharp claws made of Ki tore open the black smoke on the old man's body surface and then used a method of locking the old man's body to suppress him. Mia, who had rich combat experience, did not need to be reminded at all and immediately followed up. At the moment when the old man twisted his body and tried to break free, the demon blade slashed down, cleaving it into two. No matter what the old man's essence was made of, the demonic blade could cause direct damage. Furthermore, the cut area was immediately invaded by cold air. Even so, the old man was still full of vigor and vitality. Through the black gas that was produced from the underground parking lot, it tried to drag the old man's body into the darkness and reconstruct it. At the critical moment, boom! The underground garage and even the shopping mall above could feel a strong tremor. Wenli leaped into the air and smashed down with her hammer. A dent 1 meter deep appeared where the hammer landed, and a large amount of fire burned on the head of the hammer. The ghost story's uncle was completely annihilated by the hammer. Shop, aha! Look at what you've done. Don't you know how to respect the old and love the young? However, it's fortunate that you've collected them in a relatively complete manner. You should be able to restore them to their original state if you give it a try. It's considered a perfect completion of the quest. I'll reluctantly give you 12 points as a reward. The clue was worth 8 points, and it was discounted. Why was the reward only 12 points? Mr. Aha, isn't that too little? Normally, it's only that much. It's not that easy to earn points in the theme park. When you have more ghost story points, you can exchange them for more valuable clues, and the corresponding reward will naturally increase. Low risk, low reward, high risk, high reward. Take it slow, young man. Han Dong sighed helplessly. He thought Mr. Aha would give him some special treatment. All right then. It seems that this fate event will take at least half a month. Due to the strangeness of the ghost stories, almost every ghost story had its own unique characteristic. Other than that, they had to consider the death row inmates that were also working in the theme park. Han Dong would not split them up. Even when they slept at night, the 4 of them stayed in the same room. Just like that, an entire week passed. Han Dong's group had dealt with 13 ghost stories, and their current accumulated points were 64 points. The ghost stories that they encountered during this period were naturally the less famous local ghost stories. At least, Han Dong had not heard of them when he was alive. The truly difficult and well-known ghost stories were kept in the deeper part of the theme park. 4 passes, 1 real map of the theme park. When you enter the main ghost story area of the theme park, remember to come to the shop to meet me. Otherwise, it'll be very dangerous if you get lost. In the inner layer of the theme park, I have something that I need your help with. That's right. This was the benefit of the increase in intimacy level. When Han Dong received the hidden event that could increase his relationship with Mr. Aha, the system had already mentioned it. Once their relationship increased, other than the basic discount, he could also purchase some unique clues from Mr. Aha, which could further deepen the relationship between the two. Okay. Aha, since you helped me gain control of the general's residence, I'll remind you. Don't bring the feeling of success from this week into the inner layer of the theme park. The outer layer of the city is just to let you get used to the theme park's atmosphere. The inner layer is completely different. Don't have any thoughts of farming points. After all, I still have high hopes for you. There are some things that I need your help with, so cherish your life. Okay. From the beginning, Han Dong had never thought of farming points for a full 5 stars fate event. The outer layer of the theme park has many districts. We are currently in the business district. Next to it is the rural district, mountain district, residential district. But the inner layer is called the inner layer of the theme park? He spent 10 points to buy an electronic map. He could zoom in to see the layout of the streets in detail. It even marked the detailed location of the shops. The map showed that every district in the outer layer had a road that led directly to the inner layer of the theme park. For some reason, Han Dong had a feeling that the real danger had just begun. Staring at the electronic map, the shops in the inner layer were like safe houses. If he could build a good relationship with Mr. Aha, it might become an important foundation for the team to survive in the inner layer of the theme park. This is the entrance to the inner layer of the theme park. Following the route marked on the map, a very eerie cobblestone path appeared in front of Han Dong and the others. The moment they stepped in, they felt that they were completely separated from the bustling city area. The small forest on both sides of the cobblestone path was filled with white robes. From afar, it looked like a large number of suicides were collectively hanging themselves here. These white robes that were hung all over the branches had the words "No Entry" written all over them. Chapter 306. At the beginning of the cobblestone path, there was a fork in the road to the left, leading to a simple and dilapidated shrine. The wooden pass he bought from Aha trembled faintly under the influence of the shrine. The pass should be given to the inner part of the shrine. They walked towards the shrine. Suddenly, an old man crawled out from the inner door. The old man who only had his upper body left was really scary. Wenli was so scared that she almost smashed his head with her hammer. Wenli, Han Dong immediately reached out to stop Wenli. Under the observation of Little Magic Eye, this was just a poor man who had his lower body amputated. The old man issued a warning in a hoarse voice. The path you are going to take will lead to the Shinra domain. Those who enter will not come out alive, and will eventually become an evil spirit trapped in there forever. Are you sure you want to go in? Yes. There was no way out. Han Dong was currently in the business district. Basically, all the clues had been sold out, and there was no possibility of earning points. At the same time, there were a large number of death row prisoners active in other areas. It had been a week since they entered the Destiny world, and the clues in the outer area were basically exhausted. If they wanted to earn enough points, if they wanted to get a high enough evaluation in this Destiny event, they had to go deeper. Most importantly, even if they stayed in the outer area, they could not find a way to escape the paradise. Please put the pass in your hands into the wooden box. Ring, ring, ring. As the pass was put into the wooden box inside the shrine, the old man, who only had his upper body, protruded a bell with a red string from his mouth. Every time the bell rings, it means that you have to stop and wait for the fog to disperse before continuing. Don't be in a hurry. The Shinra domain is just ahead. Thank you. Han Dong did not care about the saliva on the bell, and immediately grabbed this important item in his hand. While the team members were still full of energy after waking up, they had to hurry to the inner area of the paradise. Han Dong estimated that the most common speed change in Destiny events was coming. The rhythm of the game would completely change, and if they could not adapt to it, they would die. In the following period of time, sleep might become a very luxurious thing. Walking on the winding cobblestone path, there would be a breeze every once in a while. The white clothes hanging in the woods would sway in the wind. The thick fog would cover the entire area. All kinds of strange laughter would come from all directions. There would be a large number of branches on the path ahead, and it would be impossible to distinguish the correct path. Ring, ring, ring. The bell that Seiji obtained from the shrine rang at this moment. It was as if a small stone had been thrown into a pool of water. The ripples that spread out slowly dispersed the white mist, and the path also returned to its original state. In less than 30 seconds, Han Dong was drenched in cold sweat. If one tried to force their way into the inner zone without using the pass to exchange for the bell, they would definitely get lost here and be devoured by the countless wandering ghosts. It took about 4 hours. The bell rang 32 times before they finally saw the end of the cobblestone path. The forest of white clothes on both sides no longer extended. He had officially arrived at the inner layer of paradise. It was somewhat similar to the world outside the city in Han Dong and the others' world. The sunlight was blocked by a thick layer of inattribute clouds. Less than 10% of the sunlight shone through the clouds. It was very similar to the city environment at 9 o'clock at night, with only a little moonlight illuminating it. However, everyone in the team had night vision. Wenli had also specially prepared night goggles. The cobblestone path led directly to the back door of an abandoned park. They could clearly see the withered vines hanging on the fence of the park. A sense of danger came from the park. According to the map, we only need to pass through the park, turn right, and walk through 2 streets to reach the nearest shop. We don't know anything about the inner layer of paradise. Don't make any unnecessary movements. Our main goal is to get to the shop. Understood. The inexplicable sense of gloom made Wenli, who was in the team, habitually stick to the most reliable vice-captain. Mia had already entered combat mode. As long as she sensed any danger, she would immediately switch to her spider form and pull out her demon blade. Abel took on the role of a scout. He activated his beast perception to help Han Dong observe the surrounding environment in detail and strive to see the potential danger at the first moment. This is... The group of people stuck close to the crack of the rotten-back iron gate and stepped into the abandoned park. They were immediately attracted by the public toilet in front of them. As mentioned before, darkness shrouded this land. Naturally, there were no lights in the abandoned park. However, the public toilet was constantly flashing with white light, which was extremely strange. Crack, crack, crack. At the same time, there were bursts of sounds that sounded like firewood being chopped, constantly coming from the public toilet. Just as the attention of the 2 girls in the team was attracted by the public toilet, Han Dong grabbed Mia and Abel grabbed Wenli from the other side. At the same time, they whispered, "Retreat." The 4 of them immediately hid in the weeds at the edge of the park. It was not because of the public toilet. It was because something was coming from the path on the right side of the park, this, in their field of vision. A dog walker slowly walked along the path of the park. It was very common to walk a dog in the park at night. However, it was a little different here. As the dog walker slowly walked over, Wenli was so scared that she quickly covered her mouth when she saw his appearance. The dog walker was a fat man who was tied up with needles all over his body. A black mask covered his eyes and nose, only revealing his bloody mouth. His huge belly was just hanging in front of them. He weighed at least 400 pounds. In his hand, he was holding a human dog that had been stitched together. Wenli leaned towards Han Dong out of fear. Reality proved that leaning towards Han Dong was the correct choice, because this dog walker's perception was also very sensitive. Han Dong decisively reached out and forcefully pulled Wenli into his arms. Through the characteristics of the corpse feather coat, the crowman's feathers spread out and covered Wenli's entire body, further hiding her presence. Mia and Abel both had their own method. Even so, when the dog walker approached the bushes, the pet dog sniffed its nose that had been cut off and was filled with auxiliary tubes. It seemed like it wanted to crawl into the bushes. Han Dong slightly raised his hand and signaled for the team to pay attention. They were prepared to instantly kill the dog walker and his pet. At the critical moment, ha ha! A burst of laughter came from the public toilet. The dog walker immediately stopped searching the bushes. His head turned towards the public toilet on the other side. The pet dog in his hand also opened its mouth full of fangs and stitches and stared at the public toilet. Chapter 307. Han Dong, who was hiding in the bushes, placed his hand on his lips and signaled for his teammates to keep quiet and wait for the situation to change. Furthermore, Han Dong could use this opportunity to learn about a very important matter. That was, would there be any conflict between ghost stories? In the shrine, the elder who only had half of his body left called the inner layer of the theme park, Sun Luo. When we arrived at the inner layer, we ran into 2 ghost stories at the back door of the park. The density of ghost stories in the inner layer is probably higher than we expected. Therefore, it's natural for ghost stories to run into each other. If 2 ghost stories with strong aggressiveness run into each other, what will the result be? Han Dong observed quietly, wanting to see the reaction of this dog walker. Would he continue to walk, or would he go to the toilet to check the situation? He's gone. The mouth of the human dog in his hand was completely split open, reaching the earlobe. Many layers of sharp teeth were embedded in the mouth, and they could easily tear flesh apart. As for this fat dog walker, he seemed to have some unique power as well. The dog walker led his cute pet and slowly approached the strange laughter coming from the public restroom in less than 3 minutes. A series of dog wails came from the toilet, and at the same time, a black shadow flew out from the toilet. But this black shadow landed right in front of the bushes where Han Dong and the others were hiding. When they took a closer look, Wenli was so scared that she immediately buried her head into Han Dong's chest. The thing that landed in front of them was the head of the human dog. The mouth was cracked open, and the eyes had lost their luster. Facing such an unexpected situation, Han Dong was calm. The first thing he did was to check the wound on the head. The wound on the neck was very rough, and it was not cut by a sharp object. The wound was uneven and full of small cuts, and it looked like it was cut by a saw. A saw. After waiting for another 5 minutes, the noise in the toilet stopped. Ha ha ha! The strange laughter that was similar to before came out, and at the same time there was a strange kacha sound. It sounded like the ghost story in the toilet was dealing with the body of the dog walker. Conflicts do happen, but the difference is so big? Judging from the aura, the dog walker in the park was not weak, and he was leading a ferocious and brutal human dog. In a 2v1 situation, it ended in a short time. Han Dong silently memorized the location of the public toilet and the strange laughter. Han Dong's team members held hands and took a detour around the edge of the forest under the cover of the bushes. Before reaching the shop in the inner layer, Han Dong needed to avoid all dangerous conflict. The abandoned park was relatively small. The team slowly made their way to the park's main entrance. This was the first time they saw the inner area street. It was also at this moment. Immediately, several drops of sweat flowed down Han Dong's cheek. This This is the Sunluo ghost domain? The scene on the dark and spacious street was beyond everyone's imagination. The androids, transported by humans to the outer layer of the park, could not enter the inner layer due to the restrictions of the pass. As a result, the inner layer was devoid of life. The dilapidated and gloomy city was full of strange ghost stories and legends. Every corner was full of danger. As Han Dong foresaw, there was no place to hide except for the shop. On the street, the first thing that attracted Han Dong was the nearest street lamp. Without the supply of electricity, the street lamp was flickering irregularly. A middle-aged woman in a floral dress was hanging on the street lamp. Two eyeballs that were almost out of their sockets kept turning and observing the surroundings. In addition, on the open street, an old woman would run by at an extremely fast speed from time to time, and a lot of dust would be raised behind her. Her speed was much faster than the twisted old man that Han Dong's team had encountered in the underground parking lot before. Even Abel couldn't catch up with her speed. In addition, across the street, on the rooftop of the 6-story building, a man with a messy face was standing with a briefcase in his hand. Leaning forward, falling. But the man's body fell heavily, because his back just happened to fall on the fire hydrant on the side of the road. His entire spine was completely broken. Immediately afterward, the man twisted crazily like an earthworm, and in this process, his spine was reattached. He climbed to the top of the building in a trot and continued his act of jumping off the building. Different from the general cycle, this person's landing point and position were different every time. Even when he fell, he hung on the wire on the second floor and his entire arm was cut off. So when he climbed up again, there was an additional action of picking up his arm. During the climb, he reattached his arm and continued to jump off the building, as if he was enjoying the process. At this time, not far on the road, the manhole cover was slightly loosened. Clouds of black gas gushed out from the sewer and slowly condensed into a grimacing child with a huge malignant tumor on his back. He didn't seem to notice the situation of the street lamp. With a happy face, he was about to play on the road. Pa! A long tongue suddenly stretched out and wrapped tightly around the child. Sizzle! Due to the stimulation, the malignant tumor on the child's back immediately began to secrete corrosive liquid. However, this kind of tongue completely ignored the corrosion and slowly dragged the ghost story child. The person who stuck out the tongue was the woman hanging on the street lamp. No matter how the child bit or corroded the tongue, it was useless. When the child tried to turn into the dirty liquid of the sewer, he couldn't complete the transformation. It seemed that he was also affected and disturbed by the tongue. Swish! When the child was about 1 meter away from the woman hanging on the street lamp, the woman's body split from the middle and turned into a huge mouth, swallowing the child whole. The hunt was complete. In the next less than 3 minutes, the child and the huge malignant tumor on his back were completely digested. The woman's protruding eyeballs continued to move, searching for all the prey that was close to her. Not only Han Dong. Everyone in the team was shocked by this scene. This is the theme park? Besides, the team's eyes gradually moved upward and were attracted by a lighthouse. Even though most of the view was blocked by the residential buildings across the street, they could still see this lighthouse that went straight to the sky. A total of 3 beams of strong light from the top of the lighthouse penetrated the clouds and shone on the theme park city. When one of the beams of light swept to the street in front of Han Dong, the woman hanging on the street lamp immediately merged with the street lamp. The man who jumped off the building also hid in the building and didn't dare to make a sound. The granny running at high speed also hid under a pavilion, waiting for the light to sweep over here. According to the electronic map, the lighthouse was the center of the theme park. Based on the situation in front of them, they couldn't be illuminated by the lighthouse. Chapter 308. The setting, density, and atmosphere are completely different. The rules for obtaining ghost story points might also be different. I have to hurry to the shop to meet Mr. Aha. In the team, the one who was the least good at concealing her presence was the blacksmith, Won-li. She might run into trouble on the way to the shop. Won-li, for the next part of the journey, stick close to me. Ah, okay. The image of being hugged tightly by the vice-captain in the bushes would occasionally appear in Won-li's mind. However, Won-li was very clear about one thing. Sister Mia, who was also a mystic, liked the vice-captain a lot. The vice-captain had shown concern for her many times, which made her feel embarrassed. However, Won-li was also very afraid of the various ghost stories on the street. She stole a glance at Sister Mia's expression while leaning towards Han Dong. When she got close, caw, a faint crow's caw, the black glove on Han Dong's left hand actually grew an eye on the surface. Immediately after, black feathers formed on the surface of the glove. The glove detached itself from the arm and turned into an obedient crowman. It was the Dozier Crow. During the recent trip to the manor, Han Dong purposely brought the Dozier Crow with him. The glove transformed from the Dozier Crow could increase agility to a certain extent, which was a great help to Han Dong. After turning into a living equipment, it successfully avoided the detection of the Destiny Realm and was successfully brought into this Destiny event. Dozier Crow, from now on, you will follow Won-li, then. I'll bring someone. What about you? The Dozier Crow preferred to attach itself to Han Dong. After all, the unique presence that came from Han Dong's body could nourish the Dozier Crow. During the operation at Stuart Manor, because it had attached itself to Han Dong for a long time, the Dozier Crow had improved significantly and was showing signs of becoming a two-headed crowman. You only need to protect Won-li. Use your feathers to cover her body as much as possible and help conceal her presence. If she's exposed, we'll all be in danger. Okay. Caw-caw, the Dozier Crow turned to Won-li and cawed softly. Won-li, reach out. This crowman is more docile, you can try to touch its head. Okay. Just as Won-li's arm landed on the Dozier Crow's head, a ring-shaped black energy immediately wrapped around Won-li's arm along with the feathers. The final living equipment formed was somewhat different. It was as if the swamp crow could adapt to the individual's characteristics and change accordingly. The one on Won-li's left hand looked more like a boxing glove. Instead of increasing agility, it would now deal additional dark attribute damage when attacking. At the same time, a faint crowman aura enveloped Won-li's body, concealing her presence. Seeing that Han Dong was so concerned about Won-li that he even gave such an important living prop to Won-li, even though Mia treated Won-li as her younger sister, she was still a little unhappy and pouted slightly. Mia, who was just jealous, was a little stunned by Han Dong's shout. In this kind of inner layer where ghost stories run rampant, the demon blade in your hand will be the key to slaying all kinds of ghost stories. Take this, it matches the cold attribute of the demon blade. Han Dong took off the ring on his right hand. Mia, who received the coral seal, immediately felt a sense of balance and was very happy. The reason why Han Dong gave 2 items of high value to his teammate was to consider the overall situation of the team and maximize the overall strength of the team. Let's go. Han Dong and Abel fully extended their senses and hid in the shadows on both sides of the street. Along the way, they saw all kinds of strange ghost stories, and the density was terrifyingly high. Han Dong even felt that in the buildings on both sides of the street, there was a ghost story living in each room. There were even many indescribable strange shops that were in operation. In a large supermarket, the employees inside were all replaced by various plastic mannequins. Some of the mannequins had their plastic skin peeling off, revealing the bright red flesh structure inside, and a large number of nerve roots floating around the gap. In a certain antique shop, the boss in a black robe slightly bent his body and stood motionless at the door. A black cat stood on his shoulder, using its emerald green eyes to stare at all life that passed by. In a certain restaurant, at the door stood a waitress wearing a maid costume with only a mouth on her face. The waitress would bite her teeth hard every second, making the sound of teeth colliding. In the restaurant, there was constantly the sound of objects sucking. Relying on his perception, Han Dong tried to avoid everything as much as possible. But there was still a problem. When there was only one street left before the shop, without any warning, the crisp sound of high heels could be heard. Han Dong was also shocked, and quickly pulled his teammates to hide in a damp alley. After a while, they saw a woman over 3 meters tall, wearing a black wedding dress, walking in high heels. When she passed by the alley, she suddenly stopped. Ka. When the body turned, there was a series of bone and joint sound. A thin and twisted face stared deep into the alley. She seemed to have discovered Han Dong's group, but also seemed to be attracted by something else in the alley. Oh no, Han Dong, who was hiding on the side of the dumpster, changed his expression greatly. This was because little magic I had seen something even more terrifying in the depths of the alley. In the darkness, there seemed to be hundreds of arms attached to the ground and walls. His nails dug into the wall, and he used all his strength to try and drag a heavy and huge object out from the deepest part of the alley. Han Dong decisively ordered, "Kill the woman at the entrance of the alley and leave here." Who knew? Mia did not have time to pull out the demon sword. The thin woman in high heels showed a look of horror and immediately ran away with twisted step. However, she was not afraid of Mia, but the thing deep in the alley. Sweat had completely soaked Han Dong's back. Similarly, Abel's beast perception also sensed the corresponding danger. Fluffy white fur appeared on the surface of the body, and there was no desire to fight, run. Don't care about other ghost stories on the way, run straight to the shop. Han Dong gave the order, and the team immediately withdrew from the alley. The map showed that the distance to the shop was about 500 meters, but whether the shop was on the first floor or inside the building, it was unknown. The thing deep in the alley suddenly became manic after sensing the escape of its prey. Hundreds of arms began to crawl crazily, and the nails were all broken in the process. As the arms crawled out of the alley, a huge woman's head appeared on the street. For a time, the nearby shops opened by ghost stories immediately closed, as if they were afraid of this giant head. Mia's 4 spider legs, Wenli's strong physique, Abel's beast function was not bad in terms of movement speed. Han Dong was the only one who was slower. At the critical moment, a white shadow flashed, and without asking for Han Dong's opinion, it directly carried him on its back. Hold on tight, okay. Han Dong hugged Abel tightly. His body was attached to the soft, fluffy white fur, and it was very comfortable. The shadow of a wolf formed. Abel used his 4 limbs to grab the ground and ran quickly. Chapter 309. Hundreds of arms, all turned into legs. Dragging a giant head that was about 23 streets wide, it chased after Han Dong's group. Due to its desire for prey, every arm was digging with all its might. Its nails were all broken in the process, and many of its knuckles showed signs of fracture. However, its speed did not decrease but instead increased. Staring at such a giant head, it was hard to understand why it was hiding in such a small alley. Just one look made Han Dong's back soaked in cold sweat. The danger level was no less than the most difficult commander's residence in the outer layer. Without knowing the characteristics and weaknesses of the ghost stories, once they were caught, their lives would be in danger. Abel, good job. When Abel was running on all 4s, the shaking was very strong, and sometimes he would change direction very quickly. To prevent himself from falling, Han Dong could only use his G-arm to wrap tightly around Abel's waist. With Abel's help, Han Dong could focus all his attention on searching for the exact location of the shop. However, the giant head's crawling speed was beyond imagination. It would close the distance every second. If they could not find the location of the shop in time, they might be caught up. They were less than 200 meters away from the shop marked on the map. Han Dong had already started to carefully search the shop on the first floor. No result. He continued to scan the whole building with the corresponding coordinate. Still, there was no result. Did you find it? Abel asked anxiously from below. No, the shop on the first floor and the whole building is not there. Abel's eyes glinted fiercely. This thing is too fast. If we continue to run like this, it will catch up to us sooner or later. Plus, it will attract more ghost stories. Should we find a dark corner and fight this head? We can't fight. Even if we win, we will have to pay a heavy price. If that happens, the battle will cause a huge commotion and attract more ghost stories. We will still die. We can't run, we can't fight. Abel gritted his teeth. Find the shop and we will survive. Give me 10 more seconds. Okay. Han Dong closed his eyes. He tried his best to block out all the noise. There was only information about the shop in his mind. The shop itself is a ghost story. In the inner layer of the theme park, the ghost stories will attack each other. Mr. Aha was a shop owner who was afraid of trouble. If he wanted to avoid unnecessary trouble, he would definitely open his shop in a deeply hidden place. It wasn't something that could be discovered so easily. Overlapping space? Or was it some other method? If I were the boss, how would I hide the shop? When he opened his eyes and checked the area marked on the map again, Han Dong no longer just looked at the buildings. Instead, he carefully observed the street lamps, trash cans, eerie alleys, and even the garbage bags that were casually thrown on the side of the road. Not a single detail was spared. No, there are still some details that I didn't notice. Han Dong's eyeballs spun rapidly. His gaze soon fell on the drainage outlet at the edge of the street. At first glance, the 40 cm x 20 cm drain seemed to blend into the dark street. When Han Dong focused all his attention on it, he found that the drain was pitch black and he couldn't see through it. There was something even stranger. Han Dong looked through the little magic eye and found that even the air flow only flowed through the outside of the drain and didn't enter it. The strangeness of the shop itself. Han Dong's intuition. In addition, it just matched the coordinates of the shop after the map was enlarged. Han Dong decisively pointed at the drain and signaled Abel to follow. Here? It's so small. How are we going to get in? There must be a special way to get in. If this is the entrance to the shop, as long as we get close, Mr. Aha won't make things difficult for us. If this incident had started, Han Dong would not have had such confidence. But the relationship between Han Dong and Mr. Aha had improved. As long as they found the right place, Mr. Aha would definitely take the initiative to let them enter the shop. If it's not the entrance, we'll immediately turn to fight. There's no other way. Abel was ready to use his trump card. Okay. The giant head on the street was about to catch up. When Abel reached the drain and inserted his wolf claws, there was a feeling of penetrating some kind of membrane. Buzz. The ringing in his ears was accompanied by a short delay in his consciousness. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in a relatively clean grocery store. At the same time, Mia and Wunli also appeared here at the same time. He felt the warm light emitted from the shop. The danger had passed. At present, Han Dong, who was attached to Abel's back, really felt the comfortable touch of the soft white fur. Moreover, the 2 white beast ears that stood up made him want to rub them. In the corner, Mr. Aha, who was lying on a rocking chair and rocking back and forth, seemed to have just woken up from his afternoon nap. He stretched his body and kept making strange yawning noises. Mr. Aha said with a dissatisfied face, "Your speed is a little slower than I expected. This won't do. The next thing I want to ask of you is very difficult." Mr. Aha's requirements are really high. Han Dong smiled bitterly. Except for the delay at the public toilet and the main entrance of the park, they basically did not stop for the rest of the journey. They even ran for the last part. If you are not strong enough, I don't dare to easily ask you to do important things. The risk is too high. Han Dong did not continue to ask Mr. Aha what he needed help with. Instead, He suddenly changed the topic and asked, "There are two things I want to ask, sir. About 3 kilometers away from here in the abandoned park, there is a public toilet where there is constant laughter. It should correspond to a very dangerous ghost story, right? And in the alley, what is a head that is supported by hundreds of arms to crawl?" Listening to Han Dong's description, Mr. Aha showed a surprised expression. You met an S-class guy on the way? That's not bad. No wonder it took some time. S-class? That's right. S-class only exists in the inner layer of the park, and there are very few of them. When you dealt with the A-plus class Demon Blade in the peripheral business district, you actually did not experience the real difficulty. As for S-class, it is even more difficult. Demon Blade? Han Dong naturally remembered. In the Hot Spring Hotel, they actually only dealt with one problem. That was the general's mansion that was covered in white fog. In fact, there were 3 areas in the Hot Spring Hotel that were covered in white fog. One was the entrance of the general's mansion that corresponded to the staff dormitory. The second was the hotel lobby where the lady boss was. The third was the hot spring center. Recalling the scene of the lady boss waving goodbye to him after he solved the general's mansion incident, Han Dong felt a chill run down his spine. "Mr. Aha, could you please briefly explain the S-rank incident we just encountered?" Aha, pay up. Chapter 310. If he wanted a clue, he had to pay points. Han Dong originally thought that he could get some favor clues with their relationship, but now he realized that he was thinking too much. Just as Han Dong was about to take out the remaining points he had and start accumulating points in the inner layer, a voice suddenly rang out. Mr. Aha continued to ask, "I remember you have 14 points? How about this? Just now, you guys encountered S-grade ghost stories on the way. You choose one of them, and I'll sell the clue to you at a low price of 14 points. Han Dong didn't agree immediately. Instead, he asked, "Thank you, Mr. Aha, but I want to ask. The corresponding reward for completing S-grade ghost stories should be different, right? At least in terms of points, it should be very generous, right?" Aha. Of course. When they arrived at the inner layer, Han Dong was already prepared to solve a more difficult ghost story than the general's residence. Moreover, the help that Mr. Aha was looking for must have an S-grade difficulty. It would be great if he could adapt to this difficulty in advance, understand the rules of the inner layer, and earn a lot of points. Okay. Then we'll choose the clue in the public toilet. Han Dong decisively avoided the terrifying 100-legged giant head. During the process of being chased by the giant head, Han Dong's group wasn't the only one who felt the danger. All the ghost stories along the way closed their doors or found a place to hide. However, although the guy in the public toilet was also very powerful, the dog walker took the initiative to find it instead of avoiding it. Han Dong estimated that this giant head could be ranked first among all the S-grade ghost stories. As for the guy in the public toilet, at least it was easier to deal with than the giant head. Mr. Aha's eyes rolled around in his eye sockets and revealed a strange smile. Public toilet? The things inside are not simple, but you've made the right choice. You guys will suffer a lot when dealing with that giant head. After all, even I can't deal with it easily. Mr. Aha put on a pair of old-fashioned rimless glasses and looked for the corresponding clue on the shelf. Got it. A file was pulled out by Mr. Aha from the lower layer of the ash-filled area. Abyss public toilet. Han Dong suppressed the file and had no intention of flipping through it. Mr. Aha, don't tell me that the clue is only one sentence. Find an abandoned public toilet that emits laughter and meat cutting sounds, and that's it, right? No. The rules of the inner layer are completely different. I will provide you with more detailed information. The basic information about the ghost stories and how to find them will be listed in the clue document so that you can prepare in advance. Last night, you guys just happened to stumble across a ghost story that happened inside a public toilet. After all, that thing would randomly appear in every public toilet in the inner layer. Searching for it would be far too taxing. Aha! Don't worry. We're friends. I won't cheat you. Alright? Han Dong's remaining 14 ghost story points were all deducted. The dossier was opened. Ghost stories. Abyss public toilet. The dossier contained relatively reliable information, and there were even a lot of secretly taken photos. Even though the picture did not capture the situation inside the toilet or the ghost story itself, it did not capture the inside of the toilet. However, it did capture the silhouette of a body in the dark. The person who lived inside the toilet had a rather large physique, fluffy hair, and held a chainsaw. Combined with the lacerations on the neck area of the dog and human, it was indeed made by a chainsaw. Chainsaw Maniac, Harmony? There was also an electronic card in the dossier that could be used together with the electronic map Han Dong had. When the card and the map were placed together, all the public toilets in the inner layer were marked. At the same time, the time period and appearance probability were also marked in detail. This way, they only needed to go to the public toilet where the ghost story had a high probability of appearing at a fixed time. Han Dong immediately felt that his 14 points were not wasted. Thank you, Mr. Aha. We will definitely deal with this as soon as possible. There's no need to hurry. S-grade ghost stories can't be rushed. Moreover, the thing that I need your help with isn't urgent. Use this matter to get used to the real environment of the park. Being able to escape from the mouth of that giant head when you've just entered the inner layer of the park means that you still have the ability to work for me. Mr. Aha lay down and prepared to continue his afternoon nap. Han Dong followed him and gently helped him rock the reclining chair. He asked tentatively, By the way, Mr. Aha, can you tell us about some of the inner layer of the park's rules? For example, the streets are filled with ghost stories. Can we exchange points with you by killing any one of them? In addition, we also want to know about the lighthouse. Mr. Aha stared at Han Dong. You have so many questions. To be reasonable, this information needs to be charged. Can you just tell us some free information? Since you helped me deal with the General's mansion, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Didn't I warn you not to have the idea of earning points? Don't think that points are easy to earn just because there are ghost stories all over the street. Those who can live in the inner layer of the park are not simple people. Moreover, they all have their own corresponding organizations. If you casually clear these ghost stories on the streets, you will definitely be targeted by the organizations behind them. You will not be able to move an inch in the park. But if you use my clues to deal with the corresponding ghost stories, you will not be targeted by the organizations. You are a smart person and should understand the logic behind this. This is one of the important rules. I'll tell you for free. To summarize it simply, if you want to earn points in the inner layer, you have to buy ghost story clues from the shop. Looking at it this way, it felt like the clues in Mr. Aha's hands were similar to a bounty order. As long as you use the bounty order to do something, no one will care. Bring back the bounty order and the targets head to exchange for the bounty. Mr. Aha's position in the park was like an enforcer. Mr. Aha, Han Dong stared at the owner who had a strange personality, prioritized profit, and was quite decisive in betraying his teammates. He faintly revealed a smile. Aha! As for the lighthouse question, this is a high price. Even many ghost stories living in the inner layer don't know what the lighthouse means. They only know one thing, and that is to not be caught by the light. Thank you. There are some foldable beds in the utility room. You can make your own arrangements. I'll take a nap first. Han Dong was already very satisfied to be able to get this free information. Moreover, Mr. Aha's last sentence also meant that he was willing to take in Han Dong and his group. In the future, when exploring the inner layer of the park, the shop would become a safe haven for Han Dong and his group. Chapter 311. In the inner layer of the paradise, Mr. Aha's shop was set up in a hidden space slit through a spatial technique. Since there were no restrictions, the grocery store was quite large and had many rooms. Clue room, prop room, a living room, chess room, massage room, there were all kinds of strange rooms at the back, and at the end there was a storeroom. Mr. Aha seemed to be able to control everything in the grocery store. When Han Dong pushed open the door of the storeroom, there were only 4 foldable beds left. Being able to seriously think about the clues that he had obtained was the best transition for him. Mr. Aha. He's a nice guy. Abel, who was lying on the foldable bed, changed from a tense state to a safe and comfortable one. 2 furry pointy ears immediately grew out from his hair. Han Dong shrugged. Most of it is because of benefits. Speaking of which, I have to thank Captain Abel for the last part of the escape. You don't have to be so polite between us. Also, Nicholas, your body is much lighter than the average novice knight. I can barely feel you on my back. Han Dong was not a saint. After a long period of nervous tension, he also needed to clear his mind and rest for a while. Therefore, Han Dong's attention turned to another interesting point. Staring at Abel's furry beast ears that were exposed from his white hair, Han Dong asked curiously, Abel, you seem to grow fur when you're excited, relaxed, or in battle mode. When Han Dong asked this question, Abel was a little embarrassed. It's my body's problem. Because I was born with a beast in my body, I'm stronger than the average behemoth knight. Even if I've been training since I was young, I still can't fully control it. If I'm too excited, the beast will be exposed. When I need to release the beast in battle, my body will naturally change. In fact, as a biology professor, Han Dong understood Abel's characteristics very well. Anyone who had learned about genetics would know that the possibilities of genes were limitless. The reason why humans looked like this was due to the combination of genes that were partially expressed and partially deactivated. If some of the closed beast genes in human genes were expressed, or if the core expressed genes of some beasts were cut in a way to replace the originally closed genes of humans, beastification could be achieved. Just as Han Dong was about to ask some more questions about 100 beasts, Zhang Zian suddenly stopped. Mia and Wenli approached Abel with an adorable look on their faces. They stared at Abel's beast ears and said, Captain Abel, can you let us pinch your ears? It's best if you don't. Before he could finish his sentence, Mia had already started rubbing his face. He even took the initiative to pull Wenli, who was embarrassed, to touch him together. Wow. So soft, so comfortable. Mia's entire body felt like it was about to melt. Mia hurriedly asked, speaking of which, Captain Abel, with your current abilities, if you can't completely control your beast nature, then what about when you were young? At the mention of this topic, Abel seemed even more embarrassed, and his cheeks were even a little red. When I was young, I was more or less in my beast form. White Xiao Naofu. Mia seemed to have imagined Abel's childhood appearance, and her eyes were glowing with cuteness. At this time, Han Dong suddenly reminded, hurry up and go to sleep. In the inner layer of the park, sleeping is a very luxurious thing. Mia cast a contemptuous look. You want to touch too, don't you? Come on. Captain Abel definitely won't mind. He was carrying you just now. But, the next time I meet that handsome blonde guy, I'll tell him everything. Han Dong turned around and went to sleep alone. 4 hours later. Paradise. In the main hall of a gloomy and dark office building. A fat security guard with exquisite corpse makeup stood on the side of the office building's door. At the same time, in an elevator deep in the hall, the lights flickered nonstop. Every time the elevator door was about to close, a head would suddenly stick out, and the elevator door would open again because of a foreign object. In the elevator stood a young office worker with both sides of his head badly mutilated. This process would keep repeating. At this time, swish, a metallic shadow appeared above the security guard's head, and he was suddenly pierced by some kind of sharp weapon. Cold air entered his body, and together with the curse of the demon blade, he was instantly killed. The moment the killing was completed, the demon blade was thrown out violently, and there was a trace of the curse at the end of the blade, allowing it to lock on to its target and fly straight out. Just as the head stuck out and got stuck in the elevator door, it was pierced through the temple. Double kill. Mia waved her hand, and the demon blade that had already recognized its master was immediately guided by a trace of the curse, and after spinning a few times in the air, it flew directly back into Mia's hand. Aren't these ghost conventions a bit too simple? Mia was a bit skeptical about the result of her easy 1v2. It's not simple. The magic eye in Han Dong's forehead opened, and he looked up and down the building. Perhaps this office building itself corresponds to a large ghost story. The security guard that you killed and the young man with his head stuck at the elevator door have the same presence. After death, even if most of their bodies were frozen by the cold air, there is still a small part of their presence that melts back into this building. They are just a small part of this place. This sentence made Mia shiver, and a large number of spider eyes grew out, and she immediately observed her surroundings. Don't worry, everything is normal for now. Han Dong had been observing everything in the dark. After the two were killed by Mia, the overall presence of the office building did not change, and it gave off a feeling of neutrality. There was a more important point. The reason Han Dong's group came here was because the clue gave them that at the current time, 5 to 7:30 p.m., public toilet of the abyss would merge with the toilet on the 13th floor of this building, and the probability was as high as 71%. However, it was easy for ghost stories to clash with each other. However, since the public toilet could appear safely in this office building, to a certain extent it meant that the office building itself could be like Mr. Aha, a neutrality existence. However, this was all Han Dong's speculation, and it might not be correct. The power supply of this building was self-sufficient, and they could take the elevator. However, that elevator murder scenario was too common in horror movies, so Han Dong still chose to take the stairs. However, after walking for at least 20 floors, the number of the stairs was still a 1. Forcing us to take the elevator? When Han Dong helplessly walked out from the safety exit. It was unknown when, but a young and beautiful elevator attendant was already waiting at the clean and bright elevator door, waiting for the group to enter. However, this attendant's nails seemed to have not been trimmed for years, and they were excessively long. Chapter 3:12. When she saw the elevator lady who had forgotten to trim her nails for years. Zing! Mia immediately pulled out the demon sword on her back. Don't! Han Dong immediately reached out to stop Mia's agitated behavior. Little magic I could see chi. Different from the security guard or the man who was caught in the elevator, the aura of this elevator lady was connected to the 4 elevators in the office building. It seemed that she was the elevator manager in this office building, and her existence was closely related to this office building. After killing her, there might be 2 situations. First, the elevator could not be used, and they would have to find a more difficult way to go upstairs. Second, this elevator lady might rely on the elevator to revive indefinitely, and then the ghost story in the office building would start a full-scale war with Han Dong's group. Negotiation. Han Dong tried to talk to this woman. Hello. The elevator lady did not answer, she only smiled and slightly bent her knees to greet him. Tonight, there should be other guests in your company, right? When Han Dong asked this question, he carefully observed the elevator lady's body. He noticed that her eyelids twitched, and her nails that had not been trimmed for many years trembled slightly. This kind of detailed action could indirectly answer Han Dong's question. It meant that there were indeed other people in the office building who did not belong here, and it was most likely the S-level ghost story, Abyss Public Toilet. Han Dong immediately went one step further and said, "Can you take me and my friends to meet your company's CEO?" We want to talk to him about the 13th floor's public toilet. Sir, please wait a moment. When the elevator lady spoke for the first time, she immediately merged into the elevator and went all the way to the top floor. It seemed like she needed to report this problem to her boss face to face. Abel immediately leaned forward and asked in a whisper, "Nicholas, you mean to establish a relationship with the ghost story in this building first?" Han Dong explained in a whisper, "Since this office building can tolerate the Abyss public toilet coming here to occupy a floor, then it's normal for them to do so. To a certain extent, it means that the source of the ghost story in the office building is quite rational. However, we can't be sure that the office building is completely harmless. If we head directly to the public toilet to deal with the corresponding S-grade ghost story, after dealing with it, our stamina points will be exhausted, and one or two of us might be seriously injured. At this time, the office building might ambush us. Therefore, it is necessary to establish a beneficial relationship in advance to ensure safety." Abel asked again, "Why not wait? In another hour, the public toilet will be moved. We just need to follow the clues and go to the next area. There's no need to take the risk in the office building, right? The neutral office building is a double-edged sword. If we can use it well, it can help us deal with the guy in the toilet. Let's try to talk first. If it doesn't work, we'll do as you said and go to another public toilet." All right. Not long after, when the elevator descended, the elevator lady from earlier waved at Han Dong with a kind smile, but she blocked the rest of the people outside the elevator. "The boss said that he only wants to see you. Please wait downstairs." At this moment, in the lobby area of the first floor of the office building, there was an additional group of receptionists in corpse makeup. They invited Abel and the rest to rest and wait. Black tea filled with hair had been brewed for them. "Okay, wait for me downstairs." Although Han Dong told his teammates not to worry, he secretly touched Mia's hand and put a small spider in his pocket. Ding dong, just as the elevator reached the top floor. Han Dong received the corresponding system notification in his mind. Ghost story, Building of the Dead, grade A+? It's the same as the General's residence. However, since this place isn't grade S, naturally, it's not the opponent of the chainsaw in the public toilet. Han Dong had a smile on his face. He had already thought of many ways to communicate with the other party. The top floor was decorated in a local Japanese style. The layers of paper doors slid open. A plump woman with beautiful hair and corpse makeup was sitting at the office desk. When she stared at Han Dong, a strange interest flashed in her eyes. "Sister Mia, can your spider sense him? Will it be dangerous for the vice-captain to go up to the top floor alone?" Wen Li had been in a tense state since she stepped into this place. She was worried about Han Dong, who was going to the top floor. What can happen to him? Don't worry. When Mia thought about the woman in red and the bald man who could be controlled by Han Dong, she was not worried about their safety at all. Moreover, Han Dong was quite good at dealing with things like negotiation. About half an hour passed. The beautiful elevator lady waved at Mia and the others. "Please come over. The gentleman who just went up has finished talking with our boss. He's waiting for you on the 13th floor." Okay. When the elevator slowly moved up and was about to reach the 13th floor, the elevator lady who was leaning against the buttons instinctively moved back. She seemed to be afraid of this floor. Ding dong. When the elevator door opened, Han Dong was sitting alone in the empty office on the 13th floor, waiting leisurely. "We've reached the 13th floor." Just as Mia and the others walked out one after another, Han Dong glanced sideways at the elevator lady who was hiding in the corner of the elevator. "Miss, your boss asked you to give us a brief introduction of the 13th floor and take us to the entrance of the bathroom." Han Dong said so. The elevator lady, who had long sharp nails and exquisite corpse makeup, squatted in the elevator and burst into tears. Sob, sob, sob. "I'm scared." "You're too embarrassing," Han Dong complained helplessly. The elevator lady was crying sadly. As she wiped her tears, she said, "No, many colleagues have already died on this floor. Even my previous elevator lady stayed on the 13th floor for a while longer. She was taken away. I won't go there even if I die. Aren't you already dead? By the way, what's the difference between dying now and dying later?" "It's different. If you're taken away by the thing in the bathroom on the 13th floor, you'll never come back." "Is that so?" Han Dong got up and walked toward the elevator lady. All of a sudden, he made an unimaginable move. G-arm revealed its true form. It grabbed the elevator lady's right arm and pressed down on her shoulder, and pulled with force. Whoosh! The arm was forcefully separated. Then, Han Dong pulled out a strange arm from somewhere. The aura emitted from the arm not only made the elevator lady curl up in fear. Even the members of the team retreated out of reflex. The clown's arm smack. Han Dong took the clown's arm and connected it to the elevator lady's wound. Crunch, crunch. Thin threads that were connected to balloons and a kind of grasshopper-like hair immediately grew out from the dark flesh of the clown's arm. They were forcefully grafted. Chapter 313. 10 minutes ago. In the office on the top floor of the company. Han Dong gave a condition. "Lend me, elevator lady. In return, we will deal with the things in the 13th floor's public toilet." "Young man, you're quite smart. How did you know that Wan Zi is a core member of my company?" Han Dong explained with a smile. "Elevator lady's presence is connected to your company's entire elevator system. Once she dies, your entire company's elevator system should be completely paralyzed. Her position should be an indispensable part of your company. I have to have a bargaining chip here to help you, don't you think so?" The boss crossed his fair and plump thigh. "Okay, don't die. If you can really deal with the annoying people in the public toilet and can return Wan Zi safely, I will provide you outsiders with some very interesting information. Sir, you can rest assured that our company has very strict management methods. As long as you help us deal with the things on the 13th floor, we will not have any hostility toward you. We will even provide you with medical treatment and temporary accommodation services." "I hope so. Boss, you are a man of your word." After negotiation, he obtained the right to control elevator lady. Considering the difficulty of an S-grade ghost story and a 5-star Destiny event. At this moment, Han Dong made a tentative decision to use Clown's arm. This elevator lady's own strength was at least at the level of a C-grade ghost story. In Han Dong's opinion, it was enough to match the Clown's arm. But when it was grafted to the Clown's arm, the dominance immediately shifted. This elevator lady was far from being a match for an arm. In a short period of time, she was completely suppressed and had a feeling that she was going to be assimilated. Thin threads and tendrils were forcefully inserted into the wound. The grafting was completed in just 3 seconds. Immediately after, physical invasion, mental invasion, consciousness invasion. Due to the total invasion, the elevator lady was in too much pain and kept scratching the skin on her face with her sharp nails. As the skin was torn off bit by bit, what was revealed was not a bloody face. Instead, it was a woman's face covered in white paint. Her lips and lower eye bags were outlined with an exaggerated bright red paint. There was always a smile on the corner of her mouth. Crack, 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 all the teeth in the elevator lady's mouth fell out and fell to the ground with a clatter. Instead, they were replaced by cone-shaped fangs that filled his mouth. A long and thin tongue slowly stretched out of his mouth. As the tongue moved, his mouth opened and closed. A strange voice that Han Dong was extremely familiar with came out from the deep and dark mouth. It was the clown Pennywise's voice. However, because the body belonged to the elevator lady, there was an additional female voice in her words. "This body is so weak." The moment the clown completed his occupation, he began to complain about his weak body. Han Dong stared at the elevator lady who had been assimilated by the clown with a helpless expression. The consciousness of one arm is actually so strong? If your performance is good enough, I can consider giving you a better body. Okay. What do you want me to do? Since I can no longer sense the existence of the main body, it doesn't matter if I listen to you. Of course, Han Dong would not believe anything about the clown, not even if it was just one hand. Okay. Although he agreed, Han Dong, who had a kind smile on his face, gently slapped the back of the elevator lady's head. A tentacle directly penetrated the skull, ignoring the obstruction of the skull. This action made the clown's arm break out in cold sweat. Hey, what did you put in here? Han Dong said with a warning. In short, once I find out that you're not doing your job honestly or have any independent thoughts, the tentacle will immediately disintegrate this body. As an arm connected to it, you will also be destroyed. The clown felt helpless. Seriously, I will definitely help. I won't let you die anywhere other than Dry Town. Without you, my main body will be very bored in Dry Town. But no matter what, Han Dong would not compromise. You should get used to this body of yours first. Okay, the way the clown adapted to his body was a little confusing. First, he broke every bone in the elevator lady's body from head to toe. He said that he was verifying and adjusting the pain perception to make the body more flexible. While the clown was gradually getting used to this body, his teammates came over and stared at the elevator lady who was slowly breaking all the bones in her body with fear. They asked Han Dong, "Nicholas, what is this?" "It's an arm that I cut off from the final boss in the Destiny realm the last time I entered." As soon as he said that, Abel was so surprised that he accidentally folded his ears. Abel had never heard of such a thing. After cutting off part of the boss's limb in the Destiny realm, it could be used in another Destiny realm. Moreover, this clown arm was an independent entity. When it assimilated the elevator lady, the aura it exuded was not weak at all. The public toilet of the abyss is just the beginning. Next, we need to fully explore the inner layer of the theme park. I'm afraid we'll encounter a large number of S-rank ghost stories. The full 5-star Destiny events will keep pressuring us. Coincidentally, I want to test whether this double-edged sword can be used here. Okay. Don't cause any problems. Abel was also very clear that the full 5-star Destiny event had not been fully revealed. If he did not come up with some special methods, it would be difficult to pass the final hurdle with his own strength. Mia also came over and gave Han Dong a look of admiration and admiration. "Nicholas, you can even use a boss? Do you need me to put a cursed nail into his arm? If there's any problem, I can help you control it here." "Okay, give me the nail." Mia handed over the cursed nail that corresponded to the farm owner. Han Dong directly pierced the nail into the back of the clown's hand. "Ouch! It hurts. What are you doing? Aren't you adjusting the pain feedback nerve? I'll help you put in a nail. When your body has adapted to it, come with us. What we're going to face next is very dangerous. We need your help." "Don't worry, this clown won't let you die." The clown did not care about the nail on the back of his hand. After his bones were reconnected, he put his arm around Han Dong's shoulder in a very intimate manner and took the initiative to walk to the public toilet. "Do you want some chewing gum?" The clown bit the red medicine bottle in his hand. No, the clown bit into a piece of chewing gum. Puff, puff, puff. He blew out a large red balloon from his mouth and held it in his hand, revealing a strange smile. Chapter 3:14. He stared at Han Dong and the boss of a certain fate event, as if they were in cahoots. Even Mia was a little confused. Mia knew very well that Han Dong was a traitor. He could interact with many neutral life forms outside the city. However, the Destiny realm was not outside the city. The life forms inside the Destiny realm would not fall for this trick. Even if they entered the Destiny realm, they would be torn to pieces. However, Han Dong could be so friendly with a boss in the Destiny Realm. This was the first time she had heard of such a thing in the Holy City. Sister Mia. Vice Captain seems to call it, the clown. It consumed a ghost story with just one arm. The sense of danger it exudes is almost the same as the one you dealt with, Sister Mia. If one arm is already so strong, then how did Vice Captain defeat the clown in the past? Also, that was in the previous Destiny Realm. At that time, Vice Captain was not so strong. Wow. Vice Captain is becoming more and more mysterious. When Lee's eyes were practically filled with the word worship. Mia did not have an answer. She stared at the clown with a very uncomfortable feeling in her heart. The team quickly bypassed the office area on the 13th floor. Next, they only needed to pass through a dark and gloomy passage to reach the public toilet at the deepest part of the Destiny Realm. It was exactly the same as what they had seen in the abandoned park. The lights in the toilet flickered irregularly. Occasionally there would be laughter. Occasionally there would be some kind of tearing sound. A fishy smell wafted through the passage. The clown, who had his arm around Han Dong's shoulder, stepped into the passage in high heels. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. Pop! The red balloon in the clown's hand exploded. Are you going to the toilet? I'm not going. The clown took a step back and left the passage. At the same time, the black gloves on Wen Li's body automatically disintegrated and turned into the shape of a dozier crow. Caw caw caw. The dozier crow kept cawing and flapping its wings. It would rather die than go near the toilet. Its black eyes were filled with fear. Forget about the dozier crow. Clown, you're such a coward too? The clown had a helpless look on his face. I only have one hand now, and my body isn't that good either. I thought that our first cooperation would be something easy to deal with. Who would have thought that you would come up with such a difficult question? You're going to kill me. How about this? If the guy in the toilet dies, you can have his body, but you have to do your best. Han Dong's words made the clown fall into deep thought. After a while, he nodded hesitantly. All right. However, judging from the danger I sensed, I'm afraid that even if all of us were to work together, we wouldn't be able to defeat it. Don't worry about that. Clown, you just need to work hard. This time, it was Han Dong who took the initiative to hug the clown and pushed it toward the toilet. In the meantime, Han Dong also turned around and glared fiercely at the dozier crow. It was as if it was conveying a message that if the dozier crow refused to help, it would be roasted and eaten once they returned. The Menizhe crow was so frightened that it quivered and quickly turned into Wen Li's boxing glove. This feeling is really uncomfortable. It wasn't just the clown. When Han Dong approached the toilet, an indescribable sense of danger overflowed all over his body. He felt as if he was about to step into a bloody mouth. Through the gap, he could see a small part of the interior of the toilet. The wall covered with bright red flesh threads came into view. The pungent smell and strong sense of oppression forced Han Dong to change into his bird-beaked doctor outfit. Thud! When he stepped into the wash basin area of the toilet, he felt as if he was stepping on a sticky surface. The various areas of the toilet were densely covered with bright red flesh threads. It was similar to the body of some kind of creature. The clown chewed multiple pieces of gum at the same time and spat out a large number of smiley face balloons. These smiley face balloons first floated into the toilet to investigate the relevant situation. There was no sound of balloons bursting, indicating that the balloons entered normally without any obstruction. But the clown frowned as if he had seen something unexpected. What's the situation? The clown was silent for a while before he asked, Kid, what's the difficulty of the Destiny event that you chose this time? The clown had killed many night squads in Dry Town and had already learned the relevant rules of the Destiny realm. It's 1 star higher than yours. A full 5 stars, no wonder. I can't explain the specific situation, you should go in and check it out. I can only say that there's no danger inside for the time being. The target has already gone down. Han Dong grabbed the clown and had him walk in front. The moment they officially stepped into the toilet from the wash basin, Han Dong and the others were all stunned. It was also at this moment that they understood the meaning of Abyss public toilet. The public toilet in their imagination had completely changed. Han Dong and the others were standing at the entrance of a bright red abyss. But when they went down a spiral staircase made of flesh threads, when they looked down, they couldn't see the bottom of the abyss at all. At the same time, the familiar old woman's voice echoed in Han Dong's mind, "Ghost story. Abyss public toilet." There are many versions of the origin of this story. Some say it's modern, some say it dates back to the Edo period. Even now, I don't have a fully verified version, so the real origin story can only be obtained from the ghost story. Ghost story level, S-trigger method, search for clues, trigger directly. Requirements. Within 24 hours, go to the bottom of the abyss to find and kill the Abyss Butcher. Ranking. This ghost story has been listed in the theme park's S-grade ghost stories ranking, rank 10. Please handle this carefully. Reward, 1. Large number of ghost story points. 2. There's a certain chance of obtaining special destiny equipment or materials from the Abyss Butcher. 3. Increase the chance of obtaining cards of destiny. Warning. Once you deal with an S-grade ghost story, you will be wanted by the theme park. The ghost stories on the street will have a stronger desire to attack you and will even actively search for your presence. Ranked 10 on the S-grade ghost story ranking? After killing this Abyss Butcher, there might be equipment dropped, and you'll be wanted. Han Dong stared at the scarlet and bottomless abyss beneath his feet and took a deep breath. Let's go. The clown's smiley face balloon led the way. The team held hands and walked down the corridor made of flesh threads. The lower they went, the wider the space became. It was similar to a conical structure. Be careful. Abel was the first to notice the abnormality. He immediately let go of his hand and dodged. A high-speed chainsaw cut through the wall. Then, a humanoid life form made of flesh threads and wearing a pig mask walked out from the sawed-open gap. Chapter 3:15. Vroom vroom vroom. The sound of a diesel chainsaw engine echoed in the abyss. In the team, the one with the fastest reaction was Abel. When the opponent used the chainsaw to tear open the wall and stepped out, he decisively transformed into a wolf. He crossed his claws and directly cut off the arm of the pig-head muscular man. The chainsaw also fell to the ground. Abel naturally wouldn't give him any chance to breathe. He swung his leg around. With one kick, he cut off the pig-head's head. Without the head and arm, he thought the battle would be over. Who knew that this humanoid life form made of tendrils had no intention of falling? Hiss hiss hiss, tendrils of flesh grew out of the severed head, an arm on the ground and quickly connected to the main body. When a tendril of flesh connected, the arm regained its vitality. It grabbed the chainsaw on the ground and swung it at Abel. At this moment, several smiley face balloons floated over at the same time. They squeezed and stuck to the muscular man's body. Ah! As the laughter spread, the balloons exploded at the same time. The power of the explosion directly blasted the muscular man into minced meat. At the same time, the clown spat out a corrosive insect-like liquid from his mouth and completely corroded all the minced meat. As for the chainsaw weapon that fell from his hand, it was immediately absorbed by the spiral staircase made of tendrils of flesh, not giving Han Dong a chance to pick it up. The clown picked up a small lump of minced meat that had been corroded into black ashes. After crushing it with his fingertips, he simply explained, "This kind of flesh and blood life form must be completely annihilated. They are flesh and blood products from the abyss. No matter how they are cut or crushed, they can regenerate without limit. They must be completely annihilated to solve this problem." "Okay." Abel stared at the elevator lady, occupied by the clown, nodded slightly, and accepted the clown's teachings. A flesh and blood type ghost story. Although physical attacks could cause direct damage to them, but their own strange characteristics were expressed on the flesh and blood level. An almost insane regenerative ability would cause some opponents of similar level to be exhausted to death in battle. The clown continued to suggest, "Nicholas, don't you think we should count the members in the team who have the ability to annihilate? If we reach the deepest part and see the manager in the abyss, it will be too late to divide the work." In the face of such a bloody target, it was necessary to change the division of roles in the team. The so-called annihilation refers to the ability to incinerate, corrode, erase, and so on and so forth. It's a method that can completely destroy the internal structure of the flesh. You're quite proactive, aren't you? Han Dong was a little surprised that the clown would take the initiative to suggest something like this. Of course. Although it's dangerous here, it's still more fun than being locked up by you. Besides, I won't let you die outside of Dry Town. Right after he said that, Clown used Elevator Lady's body to leave a hickey on Han Dong's cheek. This scene stunned Mia. She couldn't tell the clown's real gender. Furthermore, the clown had the title of boss. This action made Mia feel jealous and excited at the same time. Stop messing around. Han Dong pushed the clown away and looked at the team. According to the clown, those who have the ability to destroy flesh and blood, please raise your hand. Han Dong was the first to raise his hand. The plague ability could naturally destroy flesh and blood, not to mention the tentacle ability. Once the tentacle entered the flesh, as long as the level of the tentacle was not high enough, the flesh would immediately disintegrate, rot, or corrupt. The clown, who had all kinds of strange abilities, naturally raised his hand as well. Abel and Mia considered for a while, and did not raise their hands for the time being. Wenli slowly raised her hand in embarrassment and asked at the same time, "My hammer has been modified with the fire stone, so it can temporarily deal fire damage. It should be able to incinerate the enemy." Han Dong suddenly remembered something. "Wenli, where is the white equipment that was dropped by the butcher when we went to the manor last time?" The white equipment that Han Dong mentioned was a chaos weapon from his family's blacksmith, Hellfire. It had the additional effect of spitting fire and shattering. Furthermore, chaos weapons had the corruption attribute, which was very effective in the Destiny realm. Ah, that thing was modified by Master. Wenli took out a skeleton stone with a flaming eye from her trouser pocket. The originally 2-meter-long giant two-handed hammer was actually smelted into an exquisite flaming skeleton stone. The fire that it emitted was not reduced in the slightest, it was even purer. This was the craftsmanship of a top blacksmith. How do I use this? As long as I install it on my blacksmith hammer, I can get the Hellfire attribute. Currently, I can only install one stone at most. Quickly install it. Hellfire combined with your heavy hammer attack will definitely have a very good effect against flesh and blood creatures. Maybe you can kill a flesh and blood monster with one strike. Vice Captain, this skeleton stone contains pollution. How do I avoid it? Wenli had always been very conservative. Because this was the first time she entered the Destiny realm, she was not willing to take the risk of pollution. Look at your left hand. The Zay Crow will help you share most of the pollution from the chaos weapon. You don't have to worry. Okay. The moment Wenli put the skeleton flint in, the surface of the blacksmith hammer was immediately covered by a layer of skull-shaped flame. Clown stared at Wenli, who could easily swing the heavy hammer, and the hidden power in her muscles that was difficult to completely see through completely, and quietly asked Han Dong, "This human's aptitude is very high. Where did you find her?" Han Dong's eyes turned and immediately slapped the back of Clown's head. "Don't have any impure thoughts about my teammates," I said. "As long as you can kill the guy in the abyss, I will naturally give you the body." Haha. Aya, you're really cautious. Han Dong turned to look at Spider Mia in the team. Mia, although you don't have any annihilation ability, the dual effect of Bewitching Blade and Coral Seals can allow you to completely freeze the target when you cause damage. The Bewitching Blade itself should also be able to damage flesh and blood essence. The battle later will be arranged like this. Wenli and Clown will be the main attackers. Mia and I will assist from the side. Captain Abel, you'll be responsible for providing support in all directions. Okay. Abel didn't have any objections to this arrangement, but his ears twitched a little. As they continued to go down the spiral passage, there were still chainsaw muscle people constantly pouring out. There were even some hounds made of flesh and blood that were directly formed from the floor of the corridor. However, once Wenli hit the target with her hammer, at least half of the target's body would be directly incinerated. The effect was amazing. Just like this, the group went down to the bottom at a relatively fast speed. Chapter 3:16. Along the way, Wenli used her hammer to smash all kinds of flesh creations, creating quite a commotion. However, no matter what she did, the situation in the abyss did not change. Han Dong and the Clown felt something was wrong almost at the same time and stopped moving. Han Dong said softly, "We have been going down the abyss for more than an hour, and there will only be a small number of flesh creations that will come out to stop us. Wenli's hammer attacks will create quite a commotion. The ghost stories in the abyss must know that we are coming, but they are treating us in a lazy way." Just as Han Dong and the Clown realized this, the Clown's eyes lit up. The flesh staircase suddenly retracted back into the wall. At the same time, the wall secreted a large amount of slippery and highly corrosive liquid. There were even a large number of electric saws that extended out from the wall, not giving the team a chance to climb up the wall. They had no idea how far they were from the bottom of the abyss, and falling down like this might cause them to be smashed into pieces. Just as everyone was about to use their own methods to try to find a gap in the wall and forcefully climb up, the Clown spat out 5 smiley face balloons from his mouth and tied them around each member's wrist, completely slowing down the speed of their fall. After descending for about 700 meters, they landed steadily at the bottom of the abyss. This place is so big. The smell, pressure, and the unknown made the team of 5 stick together in a circle, observing the changes around them. As mentioned earlier, the abyss was conical in shape, and the bottom was about the size of 2 football fields. The atmosphere changed instantly. There were large amounts of flesh creeping between the walls at the bottom of the abyss. Then, tens of thousands of flesh seats grew out from the inside of the walls. The audience members who were forcibly bound to the seats were forced to watch the upcoming competition. The bottom of the abyss was actually a large arena. I didn't expect to interact with the ghost stories in such a way. Looks like the people who accidentally wandered into the public toilet, the weaklings, have all been turned into audience members here. As for the strong ones, they are forced to be gladiators. The strong ones who fall in the arena should also be made into flesh subordinates by the Butcher of the Abyss, an important member of the arena. At the same time, the long-awaited system announcement came. You have arrived at the Abyss Arena. Please follow the rules set by the Butcher of the Abyss, or else you will not survive. As long as you complete the challenge according to the rules, this ghost story will end, and the support system will send you out of the abyss. The 2 challenge modes are as follows: Frowny Face Everyone Challenge. Everyone formed a small team and accepted the 5 challenges from the Abyss Arena. In the last match, the Abyss Butcher would lead his 4 strongest subordinates to fight. If he won all of them, this ghost story would end. Single Challenge. The Gladiator Challenge would be conducted in single-player mode. In each match, the player would face an elite from the Abyss. Once they were seriously injured, defeated, or physically exhausted, the next member would take over. Every member only had 1 chance to go on stage. When the number of challenges reached 20, the Butcher of the Abyss would personally appear, and after defeating him, the ghost story would be completed. Special Mode: Hell Challenge, Single Player. After completing the solo challenge, the solo challenger who defeated the Butcher of the Abyss would have a certain amount of time to rest. After that, they could choose to leave the Abyss or start the Hell Challenge. Once it was activated, he was about to face a mysterious visitor from Hell. Completing the challenge will grant you an additional reward, Hell's treasure chest. Note: due to the close proximity between the Abyss and Hell, and the feast created by the Abyss Butcher, it attracted the attention of a visitor from Hell. He would occasionally be a guest to watch the duels at the bottom of the Abyss. He did not belong to the ghost story, but was a guest from the current world. After the system's introduction, Han Dong's main focus was not on the challenge mode, but the special guest mentioned by the system. Visitor from Hell? Does not belong to the current ghost story? When Han Dong heard the notification about Hell, the first thing that came to his mind was, Togu. We choose the single-player challenge. Han Dong wanted to grasp any special opportunity. This kind of opportunity that surpassed the original ghost story was very rare. If he could use it wisely, it would greatly increase his own ability. Furthermore, for the single-player challenge, Han Dong could cheat. For Han Dong, the single-player challenge was 3 people. His intuition told him that if he could obtain the so-called Hell's treasure chest, it might greatly increase Togu's ability, or he might be able to obtain a special item that could reach the depths of the Destiny space. Nicholas, you want to attempt the final Hell's challenge? Abel saw through Han Dong's thoughts. Yes, you guys will complete the previous single-player challenges. When we reach the 20th round, it will be my turn to face that Abyss Butcher in full condition. If after I deal with this S-rank ghost story, my condition is very bad, I will decisively give up on the Hell's challenge. But if my condition is good, I want to grasp any chance to increase my strength and compete with this mysterious visitor. Once we obtain the Hell's treasure chest, our team's overall strength might increase. I will lead everyone and complete this 5-star difficulty Destiny space in the condition of the whole team. Good. Abel agreed with Han Dong's decision. Only the clown was whispering on the side, "Io, what a touching speech. You really are a good team leader. Please don't end up with all the equipment in the treasure chest." Han Dong immediately gave the gossiping clown a mischievous look and prepared to arrange for him to be the first to fight. Who knew that Wenli would take the initiative to step forward? "Vice Captain, let me go first. I am more afraid of the ghost stories on the theme park streets, but against these things with flesh and blood, I am not afraid at all. I want to prove myself and see how far I can go. I also want to contribute to the team." When the clown heard that Wenli, this silly girl, was going to be the first to fight, he whistled happily on the side. Looking at Wenli's determined eyes, Han Dong nodded. "Okay, but if I think you can't go on, I will immediately send you off the stage." "Okay." Just like that. Mode selected. Single-player challenge. A heavy voice echoed in the Abyss frowny-faced challenger, "Please come out. Other members are not allowed to interfere during the battle, or else they will be disqualified." Wenli, with her fiery red ponytail and a blacksmith hammer inlaid with a skeleton flint, walked alone to the center of the arena. At the same time, a heavy pressure came from above her head. Wenli, who was highly focused, quickly retreated to avoid it. A giant meatball with a width of 10 meters suddenly fell, creating a huge crater in the ground. 8 steel legs grew out from its fat body, and 10 layers of flesh piled up on its head. Its facial features were completely squeezed together. "The first battle will be fought by my subordinate, Meat Pile, Tokugawa Shigekuni." Just as the huge and fat body was not slow at all, it adjusted its body and threw itself at Wenli. Once it landed, Wenli would definitely be squashed. At the critical moment, a force field was released and covered the entire arena. "Wenli, you grew so fast?" Chapter 317. In terms of muscle growth alone, it would be difficult to find a second person in the Holy City who could compare to Wenli's limitless muscle fiber growth. In Wenli's genetic system, there seemed to be no genetic sequence that limited her muscle fiber, so her muscle density could increase without limit. Accordingly, Wenli had to have a body that could control muscle tissue that was dozens of times more than an ordinary person. At the same time, she also needed a strong enough respiratory system to allow every muscle cell to get enough oxygen. Just like a matching system, Wenli was born with a body that was perfectly compatible with muscles. From the age of 5, she was asked by her master to complete various forging tasks in the underground furnace fort as a normal apprentice. It looked like she was honing her forging skills, but in fact, it was tempering Wenli's body. It took more than 10 years to forge Wenli's body into a human weapon. However, there was still one process that had not been completed. That was actual combat. Wenli, who walked out of the underground furnace fort for the first time, participated in the night training. Through actual combat, the body completed the final polishing. Especially the final battle with the Arab ghoul, Lord Stuart, Wenli's body completely matured. So when she returned to the Holy City, she slept for a whole week. During her sleep, an invisible force field spread out, so that the blacksmiths who were forging nearby could not lift the hammer in their hands. They all gathered in the blacksmith room where Wenli was. When the old blacksmith saw this scene, he smiled very happily. This was also one of the main reasons why the old blacksmith agreed to let Wenli follow Han Dong and the others to participate in the high-difficulty destiny space. Like a small hammer hitting the surface of a fully ripe watermelon that was about to split open. Pause for a moment. There was a rain of blood in the Abyss Arena. The first general sent by the ghost story, Meat Dumplings, Tokugawa Shigukuni, was actually killed in one hit. However, the rain of blood could not fall on Wenli's body, because once the rainwater got close, it would evaporate instantly. Wenli, who was in the center of the arena, was shrouded in a thick white steam due to the heat emitted from her body and the steam from the evaporation of the rainwater. Through the steam, one could vaguely see a muscular monster holding a hammer. The muscles all over its body were emitting a dark red glow. Sister Wenli went easy on me when we were sparring? Mia stared at this scene, feeling as if she had become the weakest member of the team. As for Han Dong, he revealed a hearty smile. He was not wrong. Wenli's uniqueness was probably unique in the Holy City. Her future potential was limitless, but this is not a training ground. It's the territory of an S-grade ghost story. I hope she can last until the 10th match. This way, the pressure on the subsequent matches will be much less. He didn't give Wenli too much time to rest. When the blood rain was over, the Abyssal Butcher sent out a second subordinate. Her nature had completely changed. The one who entered the arena was a woman who looked like a centipede. She focused more on agility. She no longer faced Wenli head-on in terms of strength. Of course, Wenli's physical body was no joke. Even when her opponent dodged her attacks many times and attacked Wenli from her blind spots, they were unable to pierce through her tempered body. In fact, they were unable to even pierce through the outermost layer of her skin. In the end, Wenli slammed her hammer on the ground, causing a temporary earthquake. Seize the opportunity. Together with the black glove formed by the Dozier Crow, he grabbed one of the opponent's legs and dragged it in front of him. With one strike of the hammer in the following matches, Wenli relied on her almost transformed strength and physique to win. But there was also a problem. Wenli, who had maximized her muscle density throughout the match, consumed her physical strength at a speed more than 10 times faster than normal. If it was an ordinary person, they would have collapsed from exhaustion. Wenli was still holding on with her almost terrifying lung function and extraordinary endurance. When the 8th competitor entered the arena, Han Dong immediately signaled Wenli to give up the match and let someone else enter the arena. When Wonli saw the eighth person, she was also shocked. She was different from the previous flesh-type butcher's subordinate. The one who entered the arena was a woman wearing a pig's head mask. Her black hair fell over her shoulders, and she wore a white robe. She had no legs and entered the arena in a floating manner. She belonged to the ghost story that was once killed by the butcher. Huff, huff, the moment Wunli exited the arena, she directly collapsed. I'm sorry. I couldn't continue. You've already done very well. Leave the rest to your teammates. After helping Wunli to sit on the chair, Mia applied the herbal medicine that she had prepared beforehand on her injured skin. At the same time, she took out a type of energy medicine that was refined and concentrated using herbal medicine and personally fed it to Wunli. Clown, you're up. Unexpectedly, Clown was hiding at the furthest spot and kept shaking his head. Sigh. Isn't it better to let this girl with the demon sword solve this ghost story? I need to conserve some energy. If you can't defeat the butcher in the end, I still have ways to bring you guys out of here. Mia added, Nicholas, let me do it. The demon sword needs to eat anyway. It seems to be very interested in the people in the arena. Indeed. The demon sword in Mia's hand was shaking slightly. All right. As Wunli was the first to enter the arena, she won 7 matches in one go. The subsequent distribution was much simpler. Mia won 5 matches. Abel won 6 matches. Clown won 1 match. With that, the number of victories in the single-player arena had reached 19. Next, according to the rules of the single-player arena, the S-grade ghost story Abyss Butcher would enter the arena for the 20th match. Other than Clown, the team members were all injured to a certain extent, and their stamina was almost depleted. Seeing that Han Dong was about to enter the arena, an evil glint flashed across Clown's eyes. At that moment, slap! Han Dong, who was about to enter the arena, turned around and slapped Clown's shoulder. Don't do anything when I'm in the arena. If you touch my teammates' bodies, the tentacles that have been injected into your body will be activated. In less than a second, you'll completely fall into madness. It will even affect your main body, who is far away in another destiny world. Do you understand? Sai, you're always afraid that I'll cause trouble. Am I that kind of person? Hurry up and enter the arena. I'm still waiting for you to defeat the butcher and give me his body. Behave yourself. At the same time, Han Dong signaled his team members to pay attention to Clown's actions. Just as Han Dong stepped into the arena, a voice rang out. The atmosphere in the abyss changed again. The ground shook. The arena that was formed by piles of flesh and blood disintegrated and fell into the lava below. It was replaced by a hollow iron floor. As the battle dragged on, the temperature in the arena continued to rise. The black iron floor would slowly turn red, and it would be difficult to find a place to stand. The sound of an electric saw came from Han Dong's direction. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.